Chapter 508 Hunt Down Who. Have mercy. We were cheated by Yunshao sect. At that moment, only the female leader remained. When she saw Yi Qingtang walking towards her slowly, she fell on her knees and kneeled before Yi Qingtang as regret consumed her. Greed and the desire to plunder are your sins. Yi Qingtang towered above the girl and looked down at her coldly. I beg you. Please let me off. The girl had a pale complexion as she pleaded desperately. Before you want to kill someone, you should already have been prepared to be killed by others. As Yi Qingtang's lips parted, the demonic blood sword never stopped and chopped off the girl's head instantly. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang experienced many pleads like this, and her heart softened too many times. However, most of those people whom she mercifully let off returned even stronger. Not only did they reveal her whereabouts, they even combined forces with others and brought more disasters for her. Facts had proven that being merciful to enemies was being merciless to herself. This time, Yi Qingtang would never be soft-hearted anymore. Since others wanted to kill her, she would not be lenient. Little girl, you're ruthless, and it somewhat models my Blood Moon sect's manner. The Blood Moon elder nodded, feeling gratified, and felt Yi Qingtang was a little more pleasing to his eye. The Blood Moon sect was completely sick of the hypocrisy and clemency of the so-called orthodox. Not bad, not bad. Pow! Yi Qingtang walked forward and slapped the Blood Moon elder's head. Why did you hit me again? The Blood Moon elder was suddenly mad. Was this damn girl addicted to beating him up? So full of BE. Hurry up and leave. Yi Qingtang shot the Blood Moon elder a look. They were in this situation already, yet he was still so emotional? How exactly did he become a Blood Moon sect elder in his previous life? Could it be that he got in through the back door? After the whole saga with the family clan disciples of Du City, the distance between Yunshao sect disciples and them was shortened. Yi Qingtang's expression was grim. How far is this place from the Blood Moon sect division? Yi Qingtang asked. After leaving this forest, there is a wilderness, and our division is situated there, replied the Blood Moon elder. Wuxia world. Yi Qingtang did not say anything more and continued to hit the road. Around half a day later, Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon elder finally left the forest. At that time, over 10 people flashed across them uniformly. The 15 Yunshao sect disciples finally caught up to Yi Qingtang. The Blood Moon elder's expression changed when he saw those 15 people. If he were at his peak, he could easily wave a hand and kill the Yunshao sect elder while talking, much less these Yunshao sect disciples. However, returning to reality, he might not be able to defeat even a martial Qi level 2 Yunshao sect outer sect disciple. Are you Xianling sect's Yi Qingtang? The leader of the group was donned in a snow-white long robe which had embroidery of a golden cloud on his chest, the special symbol of Yunshao sect's inner sect elite disciple. Xianling sect? Yi Qingtang? The Blood Moon elder looked at Yi Qingtang, who had put on a disguise on their journey, and pondered for a moment. I'm afraid you all are mistaken. She is my granddaughter. I brought my granddaughter here to train, and I don't know anything about Yi Qingtang or Xianling sect that you're talking about. She is your granddaughter? After hearing the Blood Moon elder's words, the Yunshao sect disciples had strange expressions. Rubbish! The elite disciple shouted furiously. How old are you? You're about the same age as her. How did she become your granddaughter? Chapter 509 Hunt Down 3. The Blood Moon elder was dumbfounded as he suddenly remembered that his current body belonged to that of a Xianling sect disciple, Zhou Chu. Zhou Chu was only about 20 years old and obviously did not have an old appearance as the Blood Moon elder originally had. Are you Yi Qingtang? That elite disciple asked once again with a terrifying demeanor. No. Yi Qingtang shook her head. You're still denying even with death at the corner? The elite disciple scoffed, and he looked at the portrait in his right hand. No matter how you disguise yourself, I still can recognize you. Since that is the case, why bother with talking crap? Yi Qingtang laughed coldly. You're a mere disciple of a small sect, yet you dared to challenge my Yunshao sect's prestige. You must die today. The portrait in the leader's hand was crushed into dust by the impact of his primordial qi. Kill! The leader waved a hand. The sect ordered that he only needed to bring back Yi Qingtang's head, and there was no need to keep her alive. Wait! Yi Qingtang suddenly said. What last words do you still have? The leader scoffed. In his eyes, Yi Qingtang was already doomed to die, and he was not afraid that she would escape. Before I die, I want to give you all some presents. A cold laugh emerged in Yi Qingtang's eyes. As she spoke, the talisman she hid in her hands already started to burn. Roar! As the talisman was completely burned, an enraged roar suddenly sounded from the sky. In the next second, over 10 enormous ink-black bats flew towards them. Array formation in a talisman. Psychic curse. A cold glint flickered in the leader's eyes. The bats were formed using the magical powers of array formations. They were extremely huge and had a human face but the body of a bat. Just looking at them was horrifying. In at most a few breaths, the 15 Yunshao sect disciples had already slaughtered the enormous bats formed from the psychic curse. Wuxia world. Sight, however, Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder were nowhere to be seen. Senior brother, they've escaped, reminded a Yunshao sect disciple. Great. Want to see whether they can escape from my hands. The elite disciple clenched his right fist tightly. At that instant, Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder had already fled from the forest, and ahead was a wilderness that stretched as far as the eyes could see. There seemed to be no life in this wilderness. This was an ominous land. Fear and uneasiness arose in the heart of anyone who entered. The breath of death had long combined as one with the air, and a chill lingered in the air. Every breath was torture to humans. The sand below their feet devoured the hope of the uninvited people without a sound as though it was living. Be careful. The Blood Moon forbidden curse has been laid on this wilderness. Even an inconspicuous grain of sand can consume the life of any living thing. If you're uncomfortable, say it early. The Blood Moon Elder told Yi Qingtang. Cut the crap. Go quickly, Yi Qingtang said without turning her head back. The Blood Moon Elder was slightly stunned as he stared at Yi Qingtang's back view. Confusion filled his face. Yi Qingtang seemed to be unaffected by the Blood Moon forbidden curse. At the same time, the Yunshao sect disciples followed tightly after Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder and arrived at the wilderness. This is strange. The leading elite disciple frowned. Why do I not know that there is such a wilderness here? I've never heard of it as well. Not far away, the Blood Moon Elder saw the figures of the Yunshao sect disciples and snickered secretly. The Blood Moon sect division had laid a hidden world array in that forest a long time ago. Without the directions of a member of the Blood Moon sect, it was simply impossible to find this wilderness. Chapter 510 Blood Moon Sect Branch Master 1. Chop the heads of those two people first, commanded the elite disciple. Upon hearing the order, the Yunshao sect disciples dispersed instantly and charged towards Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder from all sides. Hiss! Suddenly, the sand on the ground flowed slowly. Almost in the blink of an eye, it formed a pair of shriveled hands like that of a devil's and launched at the Yunshao sect disciples. Caught off guard, many disciples were grabbed by the ankle. What is this thing? The Yunshao sect disciples were appalled. The more they struggled to break free, the more the powerful was the grip of the shriveled hand. Clink. Immediately, one of the inner sect disciples unsheathed his sword and used all his primordial chi to slash at the shriveled sand hand. However, this strike ignited a spark instead. The shriveled hand of sand was as sturdy as steel and was not chopped off while that inner sect disciple stumbled backward from the impact. Buzz. Wuxia world. Sight, a strange sound blared. Then, the shriveled hand of sand gripped on the Yunshao sect outer sect disciples tightly and dragged them into the sand immediately. The expressions of the Yunshao sect disciples changed upon the sight of the scene. Before long, the sand below their feet finally resumed to its usual tranquility as though nothing ever appeared. Set the extreme dust formation. The elite disciple shouted sternly. Swiftly, all the Yunshao sect disciples took out a white cloud flag each. A blinding light erupted from the cloud flags. As the light faded, it formed a large, golden screen that enshrouded over everyone. Not far away, The Blood Moon Elder scoffed in his heart as he watched the Yunshao sect disciples launch a big move. He subsequently turned to look at Yi Qingtang, who was walking ahead of him, and confusion and puzzlement filled his eyes. Strange. This wilderness was a dead zone, and any outsiders who entered it would definitely be buried here. Yet, why did the Blood Moon Forbidden Curse in the wilderness not attack Yi Qingtang? On the other side, the Yunshao sect disciples who had set up the extreme dust formation were not as lucky as Yi Qingtang. There is something unusual about this place. Chop Yi Qingtang's head off in the shortest time possible and then return. The elite disciple ordered. But before the Yunshao sect disciples took any action, there was a tremor in the ground. Below their feet, quicksand flowed across slowly, and a blood tide surged from within the quicksand. Tisk! A sinister laugh sounded from the blood tide, causing one to shudder in fear. Who is that? A Yunshao sect outer sect disciple looked at the blood tide in the air and shouted strictly. Tsk? Haraminis? Yunshao sect. The blood tide in the air swiftly condensed and turned into a ghastly elderly whose entire body resembled blood. There was an extremely intense smell of blood, as though it was a sea of blood, on the elderly, which evoked fear. Immediately, the leader of the Yunshao sect disciples sized him up with a frown. You are... The elite disciple's expression was increasingly complex as he scanned the elderly, and ultimately his eyes suddenly dilated. Blood Moon Sect? One of the 180 branch masters, Blood Demon Branch Master. Although the Blood Moon Sect had been annihilated for 1,000 years, no one would forget the times when this land was ruled by the Blood Moon Sect. At the Blood Moon Sect's peak, there were 108 branches and 108 Blood Moon Branch Masters. On top of that, there were 36 Blood Moon Division Heads, 24 Blood Moon Elders, and 3 Blood Moon Guardians. In that era, everyone was frighteningly powerful, and the entire land would tremor when they stomped on the ground. Blood Demon was one of the 108 branch masters who cultivated demonic blood powers. Chapter 511 Blood Moon Sect Branch Master 2. Leave. The elite disciple's expression changed, and he immediately commanded. Leave. The Blood Moon elderly cackled sinisterly. Since you're here, just become a part in my body then. Conquer the world together with me and witness my glory. Then, the Blood Moon elderly turned into a blood tide once again, and a crimson light enveloped everyone in an instant. One of the disciples was blanketed by the blood tide immediately, and his body melted into blood water at a visible speed before being sucked in by the blood tide. Senior brother. Save me. The inner sect disciple who was captured by the blood tide stretched his hand out towards the elite disciple as despair filled his face. Swoosh. The elite disciple drew out a long sword and slashed down at the blood tide without hesitation. Boom. With a strike, the inner sect disciple that was covered in the blood tide was crushed into pieces by the sword aura. Tsk? Yunshao sect did not change much in these 1,000 years. They're still so ruthless and won't let even their own people off. The blood tide had already withdrawn from the inner sect disciple when the elite disciple strike. Thus, the elite disciple only killed his inner sect junior brother and did not injure Blood Demon Branch Master at all. Very quickly, the blood all over the ground was absorbed by the blood tide, and Blood Demon turned into a human form once again. Senior brother, could it be that this wilderness is Blood Moon Sect's headquarters? A Yunshao sect inner sect disciple gasped. If it was really the case, before the elite disciple spoke, a giant figure like that of a mountain peak descended from the sky. Boom. A brawny man that was a few meters tall landed from the sky and instantly crushed the inner sect disciple who spoke. Not the headquarters. It's a division. The brawny man stood up. His huge frame seemed to cover the entire sky, and he was nothing less than a giant. There was a necklace formed using human skulls hung on the brawny man's neck, and every inch of his skin was like an iron casting that contained a horrifying explosive force. Now who are you? An outer sect disciple was terrified. The brawny man turned around and looked at that Yunshao sect outer sect disciple. In the next second, the brawny man turned into a shadow at a speed that stirred up a gust of wild wind that blew the sand away. So fast, the inner sect disciples were appalled. Although this brawny man looked cumbersome, his speed was even faster than that of normal agile girls. Have mercy! The heads of the outer sect disciples were clutched in that brawny man's enormous hands. Hearing them, the brawny man was emotionless as he tightened the clench of his giant fists. In an instant, the sound of crushed skulls rang, and a combination of red and white liquid seeped out from between the brawny man's fingers. Subsequently, the brawny man tossed those headless bodies far away. Blood Moon Sect, one of the 108 branch masters, soul-severing troll. A Yunshao sect inner sect disciple exclaimed as expressions of horror were etched on his face. A few living beings finally came here, but you want to compete with me. Blood Demon looked at soul-severing troll and laughed sinisterly. Soul-severing troll did not bother with Blood Demon as he scanned the scene. Without any nonsense, soul-severing troll threw a punch. Boom! A Yunshao sect disciple nearest to him was already dead from soul-severing troll's punch before he could even react. Run! The Yunshao sect elite disciple finally realized the seriousness of the matter. Previously, they had already heard that there were traces of Blood Moon sect members resurrecting, but never in a million years did it cross their minds that they would actually encounter a resurrected Blood Moon branch master. Chapter 512 Blood Moon Guardian 1. Just one blood demon had the ability to defeat them totally, much less with another soul-severing troll. If they still did not escape, they might not even know how they died. Seeing that the remaining Yunshao sect disciples wanted to escape the wilderness, Blood Demon cackled. Someone, kill all of these disciples. As the Blood Demon spoke, the sand below his feet quaked. In just a few breaths' time, over 10 Blood Moon sect members donned in red witch robes walked out from beneath the sand. In the blink of an eye, these Yunshao sect disciples were drowned instantly. In a hurry, the elite disciple took out the talisman that contained the great perishing curse which the sect master gave him. However, before he could release the great perishing curse in the talisman, it was torn by a Blood Moon sect member. In about 15 minutes, all 15 Yunshao sect disciples who were sent to take Yi Qingtang's life died at the scene. Warm blood stained the yellow sand red. While that elite disciple was powerful, it was simply not enough when facing multiple Blood Moon sect members. Without the great perishing curse, he could not even persist for a few minutes and was killed by the Blood Moon sect members. After killing the Yunshao sect disciples, the Blood Moon sect members headed straight for Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder. They were about to kill these two people, but all of them stopped uniformly as confusion emerged on their faces. What happened? Kill all of them, Blood Demon said rather impatiently. Branch Master, one of the Blood Moon sect members looked at Blood Demon, and his brows furrowed. Wuxia World. Sit E, these two people have our Blood Moon aura. Upon hearing that, Blood Demon was stunned and subsequently exchanged a look with soul-severing troll. They have our Blood Moon aura? Blood Demon turned into a human form and walked forward in great strides. Who are you all? Why do you have the Blood Moon aura? Blood Demon looked at Blood Moon Elder and Yi Qingtang and asked with a frown. The Blood Moon Elder hesitated. Although the position of Blood Demon and soul-severing troll was lower than his in the Blood Moon sect, he had a feud with them before. Moreover, he possessed the body of a Xianling sect disciple, Zhou Chu, and the Blood Moon on his glabella could not appear. If he said that he was a Blood Moon Elder, no one would believe either. Before the Blood Moon Elder thought of a comprehensive explanation, Yi Qingtang beside him had a look of indifference as she declared coldly. Not bowing in respect when you see me is equivalent to looking down on me. The Blood Moon Elder froze instantly. What was this darn girl saying? What did you say? Do you want a tragic death? Blood Demon's expression darkened at her words. This girl actually wanted him to bow. Blood Demon, although these two people have the Blood Moon aura, they have a dubious background. Kill them. Soul-severing troll spoke. Impudent. Yi Qingtang yelled strictly. At the same time, Yi Qingtang quietly directed her primordial qi to her glabella, and a crescent moon in the shade of blood appeared on Yi Qingtang's glabella. Blood Demon was about to strike, but upon seeing the blood-colored crescent moon on Yi Qingtang's glabella, his eyes widened. The ruthless expression on his face froze instantly and was quickly replaced with surprise. Even soul-severing Troll was shocked. Could it be that you all wish to revolt? Yi Qingtang's lips tugged up slightly, forming into a devilish smile. The Blood Moon Elder was shocked at Yi Qingtang's action but quickly realized Yi Qingtang's intention. Then, he cleared his throat and berated loudly. Aren't you all going to bow upon seeing a Blood Moon Guardian? Chapter 513 Blood Moon Guardian 2. What? Blood Moon Guardian? How can it be? In that instant, the Blood Moon members no longer dared to move forward and retreated backward instinctively. There were a total of 3 guardians in Blood Moon sect, and they existed in the sect since 1,000 years ago. Their position was only right below the Blood Moon sect master and Blood Moon Holy Lord. Moreover, those 3 guardians were personally appointed by the Blood Moon Holy Lord and had never appeared before others ever since the formation of Blood Moon sect. W. Orald. Site no one knew of their names nor saw their real faces before. You said, she is a Blood Moon Guardian? For some reason, Blood Demon was unknowingly anxious. Was this young, beautiful girl really one of the 3 guardians of Blood Moon sect? But, do you have doubts about my identity? Yi Qingtang's expression was as cold as a 1,000-year-old glacier. The Blood Moon Guardians never appeared before anyone. Why? Blood Demon was bewildered. Impudent. The Blood Moon Elder hollered furiously. Blood Demon, as a Blood Moon branch master, how dare you doubt the Blood Moon Guardian? As he spoke, a red gleam erupted from the crescent moon on Yi Qingtang's glabella. The Blood Moon crescent on her glabella definitely cannot be mentioned on equal terms with that of an elder's. Soul-severing Troll mumbled. This Blood Moon aura, and the crescent on her glabella are indeed possessed only by a Blood Moon Guardian. I can even feel the Holy Lord's remaining aura. The Blood Moon symbol on a Blood Moon Guardian's glabella was personally bestowed by the Blood Moon Holy Lord and was completely different from that of ordinary elders and members. After consideration, Blood Demon stared at Yi Qingtang with his mouth agape, and his body trembled slightly. Kneel down. Yi Qingtang glared furiously, and her manner was utterly different from before. She entered the Paragon level in her previous life, and even if she still had not attained that level now, she could confidently and easily pull off the stance of a powerful figure. Almost instinctively, Blood Demon and Soul-severing Troll kneeled before Yi Qingtang at once. Greetings, Blood Moon Guardian. Greetings, Blood Moon Guardian. At the same time, the numerous Blood Moon sect members kneeled around Yi Qingtang uniformly as though they were trained to. I was ignorant and did not recognize you and ended up offending you unintentionally. Please forgive me. Blood Demon looked down as his body trembled. What kind of figure was the Blood Moon Guardian? Although a Blood Moon Guardian was not ranked higher than a Blood Moon sect master, both were appointed by the Holy Lord. If branch masters like them offended a guardian, it was a punishable sin. The Blood Moon Elder looked at the group of Blood Moon members who knelt before Yi Qingtang and then turned to look at Yi Qingtang, who put on an aloof and domineering stance. His lips twitched secretly. Yi Qingtang did not bother about the Blood Moon Elder's reaction and merely swept a look across Blood Demon and Soul-severing Troll. You may rise. Yes. Both people responded at the same time and rose slowly. I've only just resurrected. Let me ask you all, how is the Blood Moon sect presently? With hands behind her back, Yi Qingtang had an aloof stance. In response to Blood Moon Guardian, Soul-severing Troll was about to reply but was pushed aside by Blood Demon. Let me say, Guardian, I am clearer than him. Blood Demon had smiles all over his face. You'll say. Yi Qingtang nodded. Guardian, although Blood Moon sect had been annihilated for 1,000 years, the Holy Lord has bestowed the Blood Moon aura to all high-ranking members. 1,000 years later, those elders, division heads, and even the sect master will gradually come back to life. Chapter 514 Blood Moon Guardian 3. B. Yi Qingtang shouted. Do I still need you to restate the Holy Lord's divine power? Blood Demon was extremely nervous after being shouted at by Yi Qingtang and said cautiously, "Guardian is right. I was being long-winded. In this period of time before the sect master resurrects, our division here has already expanded to thousands of members. Although it cannot be compared to when we were at our peak, it's still quite alright. What about other divisions?" Yi Qingtang inquired. "Guardian, other divisions rarely contacted us. It said that they're pretty alright as well. As for the exact details, we are not very clear. If you are interested, you can summon the other division heads for interrogation any time when you're free," Blood Demon said. Blood Moon Division Head and Blood Moon Sect Elder were both ranked higher than a branch master. For example, this division was managed by a division head. Before coming here, the Blood Moon Elder had already told her everything. "Blood Demon, invite the Guardian to head to the hall," Soul-Severing Troll said. "Guardian, do enter the hall to rest first," Blood Demon smiled. The Blood Moon Elder was extremely conflicted when he heard Soul-Severing Troll and Blood Demon addressing her Guardian readily. Yi Qingtang did not reject the offer and followed the two Blood Moon branch masters in. After several hundred meters later, the entire patch of yellow sand slowly split apart, revealing a huge ancient palace beneath the sand. Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder followed behind Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll and entered the underground ancient palace. Right after entering the ancient palace, Yi Qingtang felt an ancient air brushing across her face. This palace appeared boundless and was extremely huge, with Blood Moon sect members in red witch robes everywhere. "We pay respects to both branch masters." Noticing the appearance of Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll, read it at X is War OD. S. I'd only, the Blood Moon sect members greeted with cupped fists. "Impudent." Blood Demon shouted coldly. "The Blood Moon Guardian is here. How dare you pay respects to us?" "Blood Moon Guardian?" The Blood Moon sect members were appalled to hear that. When they looked at Yi Qingtang once again, the color of the crescent on her glabella intensified, shaking the hearts of everyone. "We are wrong. We pay respects to Guardian." Immediately, the hundreds of Blood Moon sect members guarding outside the palace fell on their knees and did a full bow. "The uninformed is innocent. All of you may rise." Yi Qingtang waved a hand. As Yi Qingtang spoke, hundreds of Blood Moon sect members were pardoned. "Guardian, please," Soul-Severing Troll said respectfully. Yi Qingtang nodded and walked ahead. Not long later, inside the main hall. "Guardian, please take a rest. The division head is still unaware of your grand arrival. We will invite the division head here," Blood Demon said carefully. Yi Qingtang shut her eyes and said, "Go ahead." After obtaining Yi Qingtang's agreement, Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll finally left. At that instant, only Yi Qingtang and the Blood Moon Elder remained in the main hall. Although there was no one around, Yi Qingtang did not dare to converse with the Blood Moon Elder casually. Should the walls have ears, the consequences would be dire. Yi Qingtang had already learned from the Blood Moon Elder that he had always been on bad terms with the division head managing this division, and that was even more so the case for those two branch masters. They did not belong to the same faction, and thus, it was inconvenient to reveal his identity. Moreover, after possessing Zhou Chu's body, there was no way the current Blood Moon Elder could show his crescent, and he could not prove his identity. Not long later, Yi Qingtang scanned the walls of the main hall. Chapter 5:15 Doubts 1. She discovered that on the ancient walls, there was a male with an unclear appearance standing in the sky with millions of Blood Moon sect members bowing below him. That person should be the Blood Moon sect Holy Lord. "It's a pity I can't see his face clearly," Yi Qingtang thought in her heart. She had heard about legends regarding the Blood Moon Holy Lord. Yet, after all, they were not from the same generation, and she never had the fate to see his true appearance. The Blood Moon Holy Lord had a mysterious background. No one knew where he came from, and nor was anyone clear of how long he had lived for. It was said that when the martial culture just burgeoned on this mainland, it was ruled by a brutal dynasty. Afterward, the Blood Moon Holy Lord came to this land and founded the Blood Moon sect himself, wiping out that dynasty with a destructive force. Afterward, The martial culture on this mainland welcomed a peak while the Blood Moon sect was all the more supported by everyone. Yet, something happened afterward, and the Blood Moon sect became the first evil sect and was eventually annihilated by the combined forces of the powerful sects on the entire mainland. Presently, the times of the Blood Moon sect's rule had passed, and the dynasties and generation had changed. Hundreds of sects contended for power, welcoming the era of the sects that persisted to this day. As Yi Qingtang was in deep thought, the heavy-sounding steps outside the hall pulled Yi Qingtang back into reality. Very quickly, an elderly whose hair and mustache were white walked into the main hall. Apart from Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll, there were a few other creatures with an imposing martial aura following behind the elderly. One of them was completely wrapped in the blood-colored long robe. Not an inch of his skin was exposed, and only a pair of frighteningly ghastly eyes could be seen. There was another girl who seemed to be rather young. Her entire body was crystal clear and exuded an inexplicable demonic air. The others appeared to be middle-aged and either had swords or knives in their hands. The martial aura of these people was as deep and immeasurable as oceans, and it resembled that of Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll. Yi Qingtang thought that these people were probably the branch masters of this division. The branch masters stood on two sides and did not say anything. A long while later, the elderly in the lead spoke to Yi Qingtang with cupped fists. I heard from two branch masters that the guardian has arrived. The Blood Moon elder could not help but worry as he saw that the division head did not believe fully. If it truly is the arrival of a guardian, it is the honor of my division. However, the elderly laughed coldly as he stared at the blood-colored crescent on Yi Qingtang's glabella. Oh, you're doubting me. A glint flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. I don't dare to. I'm not doubting you. I just wish to ascertain your identity. After all, the lesson from 1,000 years ago is still vividly in our minds. Guardian does not wish for us to believe others easily. The elderly smiled. All right, Yi Qingtang said and nodded. How do you intend to prove my identity? Guardian, your blood-colored crescent and Blood Moon aura are indeed solely possessed by guardians. However, some sects once used a special method to forge the Blood Moon aura 1,000 years ago. And because of this method, they infiltrated and hid in our Blood Moon sect. The elderly sneered. An inauspicious feeling arose within Yi Qingtang, though she continued listening to the elderly without saying anything. Afterward, the sect master obtained the demonic water and placed it in every division. As long as non-Blood Moon sect members came into contact with the demonic water, the forged Blood Moon aura on their bodies would disappear immediately. The elderly scanned Yi Qingtang quietly. Chapter 5:16 Doubts 2. Yi Qingtang remained seated at where she was. Aloofness remained on her face, and there was not the slightest change in her eyes. You wish to prove my identity with the demonic water? Yi Qingtang questioned. You're right. The elderly nodded with coldness filling his eyes. The Blood Moon elder frowned slightly as he looked at Yi Qingtang beside him. The Blood Moon aura and the Blood Moon symbol on her glabella were completely forged, and the Blood Moon elder was extremely clear of this. However, he never expected that this Blood Moon sect division still had remaining demonic water. He originally assumed that all the demonic water was destroyed along with Blood Moon sect's annihilation back then. That year, hundreds of sects combined forces and fought Blood Moon sect together. To obtain information of the internal situation and topography of the Blood Moon sect, they sent many disciples as well as high-ranking elders and used a special chemical to forge the Blood Moon aura, allowing them to hide in the Blood Moon sect successfully. When the sects attacked, those elders and disciples who hid in Blood Moon sect coordinated with the attacks, catching the Blood Moon sect unprepared. Even though it had been 1,000 years since the incident, it was, however, a vivid memory to the Blood Moon sect members, and they never forgot it. Then, the Blood Moon elder could only sigh. No matter what, the matter had already reached to this extent, and it was all up to Yi Qingtang's luck. It was not to say that the Blood Moon elder was worried about Yi Qingtang's safety. Currently, he was already tied together with Yi Qingtang. If Yi Qingtang's identity as a guardian was discovered to be fake, he, who was with Yi Qingtang, would be nowhere better. At that instant, there was simply no way for the Blood Moon Sect elder to prove his identity and would probably be shredded into pieces by the Blood Moon Sect members. In that case, his death despite being a Blood Moon elder would truly be a wronged one. Yi Qingtang looked at the elderly in the lead, and her lips curled into a cold smile. "You're really bold. How dare a mere division head make me prove my identity using the demonic water?" Blood Demon and Soul-Severing Troll exchanged a look, and suspicions arose. Could it really be that the Blood Moon Guardian before them was fake as what the division head said? If that was really the case, both of them actually brought an imposter back into the Blood Moon Sect division. "Guardian, why would you be afraid to prove yourself if you're real?" Blood Demon's tone turned cold, and a ruthless expression could be seen in his eyes. Although there was no change in Yi Qingtang's expression, she was aware that things were not too encouraging. This Blood Moon division head was extremely cautious and shrewd that he never believed she was a Blood Moon Guardian. Yi Qingtang was also aware that her Blood Moon aura and the blood-colored crescent moon on her glabella were definitely created by her cheap brother. Once she came into contact with the demonic water, the Blood Moon aura and crescent would fade. She was in Blood Moon Sect's territory currently, and should her identity be exposed, the consequences were dire. This was a Blood Moon Sect division. Apart from the branch masters, there was another division head whose combat powers were frightening. If the self-certification failed, she and even the Blood Moon Elder would probably be unable to leave this place alive. "Shu Tianzong, bring the demonic water." Seeing that Yi Qingtang did not say anything after a long time, the elderly in the lead immediately ordered a detached-looking male who wielded a sword. The male turned around and left without saying anything. Not long later, he returned to the main hall again and handed a golden bottle in his hand to the elderly. Chapter 517 Doubts 3. Demonic Water. As calm as Yi Qingtang was, she was finally a little nervous at that moment. But she restrained her emotions very quickly. She must not make the slightest mistake at this critical juncture. She immediately planned a method to flee this place with the Blood Moon Elder in the shortest time possible after she was found out. Before entering the division, Yi Qingtang had already memorized the topography of the place. Thus, topography was not an issue. However, how was she supposed to flee before the eyes of these mighty figures? This was originally a huge gamble. If she won, she could ensure Xianling Sect's survival, but if she lost, perhaps what she would lose would be her own life. There was only a fine line between life and death. "Guardian, I hope that you can understand. After all, the three great guardians of Blood Moon Sect never appeared before anyone, and using the demonic water to certify is for your good. After all, it is the only way for the branch masters and hundreds of members in the division to be convinced in heart and by word. What do you think, Guardian?" The elderly had an ambiguous smile on his face as he walked towards Yi Qingtang with the demonic water in hand. Seated from afar, Yi Qingtang had an indifferent expression and never said anything. Currently, she still had a fine Kingdom of God array formation and a concealed breath spell. Yi Qingtang pondered. Once her identity was completely exposed, she would immediately activate the Kingdom of God to repress this area and use the concealed breath curse to flee at the fastest speed. Although it might not succeed, she could not wait for death either. Currently, Yi Qingtang was rather worried about the Blood Moon Elder. Although the Blood Moon aura on his body was real, he was still unable to certify his identity as an elder of the Blood Moon Sect. "Impudent! You are not allowed to be disrespectful to the Guardian." The Blood Moon Elder walked forward immediately and declared coldly, "I'll do it first." Noticing the situation, the elderly looked at the Blood Moon Elder with a slight frown and chided. "How dare you interrupt when I'm talking to the Guardian? What a joke!" The Blood Moon Elder uttered. "You're merely a Blood Moon Division head and don't have the qualification to reprimand me." "Oh!" The elderly sneered. "What is your identity in the Blood Moon Sect then? There's no need to discuss it." The Blood Moon Elder waved a hand. He already had a plan in mind. Yi Qingtang's Blood Moon aura was forged, but he was an authentic elder. He was not stupid and knew that he had to prove his own identity ahead of Yi Qingtang. Otherwise, once Yi Qingtang was exposed, These people would probably not give him a chance to prove himself or explain. They most likely would treat him as Yi Qingtang's accomplice and kill them off altogether. He did not wish to die in the hands of his own sect. What are you? Blood Demon glared at the Blood Moon Elder angrily. The division head is talking to the Guardian. There's no room for you to speak. Then, under the elderly's indication, soul-severing troll walked forward in large strides and grabbed the Blood Moon Elder's collar, lifting him and bringing him to a side. Yi Qingtang was a little helpless as she witnessed the scene. A great Blood Moon sect elder was actually lifted away like a little chick by a branch master. He was probably the most wronged elder in Blood Moon sect history. Similarly, the Blood Moon Elder was seething with rage. Back then, Yi Qingtang stopped him from possessing that little genius sect disciple and forbade him from absorbing others' vitality and strength. Otherwise, his current cultivation skills might not comparable to when he was at his peak but should have been more than enough to deal with a Blood Moon branch master. How would he be bullied by a branch master like soul-severing troll? Chapter 518. Paying Respects to the Guardian. 1. Excuse me, Guardian. The elderly did not bother with the Blood Moon Elder at all as he walked forward and uncapped the golden bottle in his hand. Soon after, the cool demonic water was sprinkled on Yi Qingtang. This is bad. There was a change in the expression of the Blood Moon Elder who was lifted by soul-severing troll. Yi Qingtang still lost the gamble eventually. So be it that Yi Qingtang was going to die, but, in the end, he would be implicated as well. At that moment, Yi Qingtang had already taken out the talisman and hid it in her palms, preparing to use the kingdom of God to repress this place anytime. However, about a few breaths' time later, the blood-colored crescent moon on her glabella was still as bright as before, and there was not the slightest change in the blood moon aura on her body. Immediately, the several branch masters' expressions changed as they stared at Yi Qingtang in disbelief. Even the Blood Moon division head was surprised as well. Initially, he and the few Blood Moon branch masters believed this to be a fraud and that this girl who claimed to be a Blood Moon guardian was most likely an imposter. However, what made the Blood Moon division head and the several Blood Moon branch masters gasp in disbelief was that there was no reaction when the demonic water landed on the girl before them. This circumstance could only prove that her Blood Moon aura and crescent moon on her glabella was not forged. Along with the rinsing of the demonic water, not only was the Blood Moon aura on Yi Qingtang not washed away, the crescent moon on her glabella shone even more brilliantly. Suddenly, there was a huge change in the expression of the Blood Moon branch masters, and they were in utter disbelief. After the rinse by the demonic water, they clearly felt a shred of the Holy Lord's remaining aura on Yi Qingtang's body. How can this be? The Blood Moon division head looked at Yi Qingtang with his mouth agape. The three great Blood Moon guardians and sect master were appointed by the Holy Lord and were bestowed with the Holy Lord's blessing. Thus, there would be a remnant of the Holy Lord's aura. The Holy Lord's aura was originally very obscure, but after the rinse with the demonic water, it would be slightly more evident. Yi Qingtang had already intended to release the array formation in the talisman, but noticing the shock on the elderly's face and the stunned expression on the Blood Moon branch masters, Yi Qingtang was extremely confused. Could it be that the demonic water was ineffective because it had been too many years? The Blood Moon Elder who was lifted up by soul-severing troll felt his heart race wildly. He could not believe the sight. What exactly happened to Yi Qingtang? The Blood Moon aura and the crescent moon on her glabella were actually real? More than that, he even felt the Supreme Holy Lord's aura on Yi Qingtang's body. He involuntarily recalled the avid Blood Moon sect worshipper whom Yi Qingtang mentioned before. An unfathomable thought emerged in the Blood Moon Elder's mind all of a sudden. In almost an instant, the Blood Moon Elder was already drenched in his cold sweat. He once said that he would definitely behead that avid fan who dared to impose as the Blood Moon Holy Lord if he saw him. This is all over. The Blood Moon Elder trembled. If the so-called avid worshipper that Yi Qingtang mentioned was really their Blood Moon sect Holy Lord and the Holy Lord heard of the Blood Moon Elder's disrespectful words, wouldn't he? As the Blood Moon Elder was filled with horror, everyone had a surprised expression. I pay respects to the Guardian. After witnessing that the crescent moon on Yi Qingtang's glabella shone even more brightly after being rinsed by the demonic water, the Blood Moon Division head fell on his knees and knelt by Yi Qingtang's legs. Chapter 519. Paying respects to the Guardian 2, we pay respects to the Guardian. Following right after the Blood Moon Division head, the Blood Moon Branch Masters successively kowtowed to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was astonished. She originally thought that her identity would definitely be exposed and she might perhaps die right there, but the supposed demonic water seemed to have lost its effects with the passage of time. Otherwise, the crescent moon on her glabella and blood moon aura should not remain. Never would Yi Qingtang believe that the cheap younger brother she picked up on the road was the Blood Moon Holy Lord, the supreme faith of the Blood Moon sect. All of you may rise, Yi Qingtang said and secretly heaved a sigh of relief, though there was no change in her expression as she pretended to be profound. Guardian, I have sinned. I did not know your true appearance, and even used the demonic water and offended you. Please convict me, Guardian. The Blood Moon Division head hung his head low, not daring to look up. Offending the Blood Moon Guardian was a big sin. He was merely a division head and definitely should not have offended his superior like that. We have sinned. Immediately, all the Blood Moon Branch Masters said at the same time, and they could not stop quivering. Looking at the reactions of all the Blood Moon sect members, Yi Qingtang let out a breath slowly, though she still wore an indifferent expression on her face. She swept an aloof look across everyone and finally said slowly, on account that everyone was thinking for Blood Moon sect, this should not be viewed as an offense, and all of you are pardoned. Do not repeat it again. Thank you, Guardian. The Blood Moon Division head rose slightly and let out a huge sigh. Similarly, the several Blood Moon Branch Masters stood up as well. The Blood Moon Elder looked up at soul-severing Troll who still held him in the air. Aren't you going to let your hands off me? Upon hearing that, soul-severing Troll cautiously bent down and placed the Blood Moon Elder on the ground gently. I'm very sorry. Previously, soul-severing Troll frowned, attempting to explain himself. There's no need for more words. Since the Guardian has pardoned you all, there's nothing much to say, said the Blood Moon Elder coldly. Soul-severing Troll nodded without uttering a word further. Guardian, may I ask who this is? The Blood Moon Division head looked at the Blood Moon Elder. One of the 36 Blood Moon Elders, Hong Heching. The Blood Moon Elder raised a brow. Hong Heching, it's you. The Blood Moon Division head was taken aback. As the Blood Moon Division head, he naturally recognized Hong Heching and even had some enmity with him from a long time ago. If not for the fact that Yi Qingtang's identity as the Blood Moon Guardian was solidified, the Blood Moon Division head would not believe the Blood Moon Elder even if he reported his name. However, in everyone's eyes then, there was no doubt that Yi Qingtang was a Blood Moon Guardian while this person was following beside Yi Qingtang, and everyone would not doubt his words. Find authorized novels in Webnovel Faster Updates. Better experience, please click for visiting. Ha! The Blood Moon Elder glared at the Blood Moon Division head and scoffed. The Blood Moon Division head was rather awkward. They had some grudges, but now that the Blood Moon Elder was following beside the Blood Moon Guardian, he probably would not badmouth him before the Guardian, right? All right. Yi Qingtang waved a hand. Our Blood Moon sect just gained a tiny streak of revival and will not tolerate any internal strifes between you all. Any previous grudges will be written off here. If anyone refuses to accept this, you're free to reason with me. I'll follow as you say, Guardian. The Blood Moon Division head bowed with cupped fists. I dare not to disobey your orders, Guardian. The Blood Moon Elder bowed in respect as well. Guardian, I am the division head of this division, Jiang Chen, the Blood Moon Division head said softly as he walked forward. Chapter 520, Paying Respects to the Guardian, 3, I know that already. Yi Qingtang nodded. So, Guardian, do I bring all the other division heads and branch masters together to pay respects to you? The division head asked. The Blood Moon Guardian was extremely high-ranking in Blood Moon sect. It was not like that of the Blood Moon Holy Lords and was second only to the Blood Moon sect master. Guardians held great authority in the Blood Moon sect. One of the 3 great Blood Moon Guardians appeared in their division, causing the Blood Moon Division head to be overwhelmed. Currently, the Blood Moon Division head naturally wanted to notify the other division heads to come over as he could show off to them. Yi Qingtang was deep in thought. Her position as the Guardian should be solidified already. However, from the division head, Jiang Qin, before her, Yi Qingtang knew that every one of the Blood Moon Division head level was not easy to deal with. The more division heads there were, the higher the possibility that her identity would be exposed. Although there were risks, it could gather the powerful figures in Blood Moon sect and defeat Yunshao sect fiercely. There were both pros and cons and risks and rewards. How long would it take to summon them here? Yi Qingtang asked after pondering. In response to your question, there is only this Blood Moon division in the formidable Heavens dynasty. The other 2 divisions are in the Nine Knights dynasty, and there's still another one in an uninhabited place. The fastest time possible should be at least a month or so. The Blood Moon Division head replied respectfully. Presently, the Blood Moon Division head was fully convinced of Yi Qingtang's identity as a Blood Moon Guardian and naturally did not hide anything as he told Yi Qingtang the locations of the other resurrected Blood Moon divisions immediately. A month. Yi Qingtang's brows were slightly furrowed. Yunshao sect had already attacked Xianling sect now, and Xianling sect would probably already be annihilated a month later. What was the use for those powerful Blood Moon sect figures then? There's no need already. It's too long, Yi Qingtang said. Oh. The Blood Moon Division head was surprised, seeming to hear the underlying meaning behind her words as he asked carefully. Guardian, do you have any urgent matters to settle? That's right. Yi Qingtang nodded and looked at the Blood Moon branch masters present. What is the state of the recovery of your skills? The Blood Moon sect had been wiped out by many super sects 1,000 years ago, and those powerful figures who did not die in the battle were severely injured at the least. Their martial foundations were damaged, causing their realm to fall greatly. Guardian, we have been recuperating for a long time. Although our martial skills cannot be compared to when we were at our peak, they have still recovered a little. Do you need to use our skills, Guardian? The Blood Moon Division head inquired. Confusion rose within the division heads. The Guardian should not ask about the state or their martial skills for no reason. Perhaps. That's right. Yi Qingtang's lips tugged up slightly. Let me ask you, which sect sent the most spies in this division back then? Anger emerged in the eyes of the Blood Moon Division head after hearing of this matter. Their division was the first amongst all Blood Moon divisions to be wiped out, and the biggest reason for this swift defeat was because there were too many spies. With both attacks internally and externally, it made it impossible for them to guard against the enemies. Recalling the tragic situation when the division was wiped out, the Blood Moon Division head reflected malice and hatred in his eyes. It's Yunshao sect. He replied. Let me ask you again. Was there an Elder Chu in this division back then? Yi Qingtang questioned again. Chapter 521, Paying Respects to the Guardian, 4. Yes. Elder Chu lost his life in the battle that year. The Blood Moon Division head nodded after remaining silent for a moment. Lost his life in the battle? Yi Qingtang suddenly sneered. As the Blood Moon Division head here, don't you know that Elder Chu did not die in the battle but surrendered to Yunshao sect? What? Upon hearing Yi Qingtang's words, the Blood Moon Division head was utterly shocked and could not believe what he heard. Elder Chu was loyal and devoted to the Blood Moon sect. How could he surrender to Yunshao sect? However, since this was said by Yi Qingtang, the Blood Moon Division head did not have any doubts at all. Elder Chu actually surrendered to Yunshao sect. How can it be? Blood Demon, Soul-Severing Troll, and other branch masters exchanged a look, with expressions of shock written on their faces. Pumph. Yi Qingtang scoffed and swung her sleeves. You aren't even aware that Elder Chu surrendered to Yunshao sect. How are you doing your job as the division head here? Please pardon me, Guardian. I should die. Seeing that the Guardian was infuriated, the Blood Moon Division head knelt down immediately, and all the branch masters followed. The Blood Moon Elder was originally having tea, but seeing that everyone was on their knees, he could only put his cup down and hurriedly kneel down. Should die? A cold glint flickered in Yi Qingtang's eyes. You all indeed should die. Elder Chu is an elder in your division here. I'll have you all tell me what should be done then. A Blood Moon sect betrayer and all his relatives should be executed. The Blood Moon division head replied. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips tugged up into an unknown smile. This was her motive exactly. If she ordered the Blood Moon sect members who were still recuperating to protect Xianling sect for no reason, it would definitely arouse suspicions. Yet, by using Elder Chu as an excuse, it would be right and proper, and no one would suspect her. The Blood Moon Elder told her the information regarding Elder Chu on the way, and she already planned all of this. Yi Qingtang is so meticulous and shrewd. Is she really only 15 years old? The Blood Moon Elder could not help but eye Yi Qingtang. However, the Blood Moon symbol on her glabella and her Blood Moon aura are definitely real. What happened exactly? Could it be that her sworn brother is really the Blood Moon Holy Lord of the Blood Moon sect? The sworn sister of the Blood Moon Holy Lord. At that thought, the Blood Moon Elder no longer dared to continue thinking. If that was really the case, even if their sect master met Yi Qingtang, he also had to be reverent and respectful. Recalling how he wanted to kill Yi Qingtang previously, a chill ran down the Blood Moon Elder's spine. At that instant, Yi Qingtang scanned across everyone. Currently, that Elder Chu is extremely high-ranked in Yunshao sect. To kill him, you must destroy the entire Yunshao sect. Can you all do it? Rest assured, Guardian. The Blood Moon division head knelt on a knee. Although our division cannot be compared to our peak years back then, we have been recuperating for a long time. Although we cannot annihilate Yunshao sect, we would not be any weaker than them. It was not only Elder Chu. When Blood Moon sect was wiped out back then, Yunshao sect also participated in it. Even without Elder Chu's incident, the Blood Moon sect would definitely take part in punishing all the powerful forces that annihilated Blood Moon sect once they were completely resurrected. I have just resurrected, and my martial skills are still very weak. I cannot lead you all to annihilate Yunshao sect directly by force. However, I heard that Yunshao sect would attack Xianling sect soon and would thus send out a portion of the sect's forces. Yi Qingtang said. Chapter 522, The Oncoming Storm, 1. Guardian's meaning is, for us to attack them one by one. We will first attack the force that Yunshao sect sent out, then head to Yunshao sect to settle the scores. The male with a sword, Shuotenzeng. That's right, Yi Qingtang said without any emotions on her face. Although Xianling sect cannot be compared to Yunshao sect, it has some heritages as well. Xianling sect would definitely not sit around and wait for death when Yunshao sect wants to annihilate them. At that time, there will definitely be a life and death struggle. When we assist Xianling sect at that time, not only will we gain Xianling sect's gratitude, we can also borrow their strength to defeat Yunshao sect's army together. The Blood Moon Elder was shaken. What was in Yi Qingtang's head exactly? How could she even think of such a scheme? Amazing! The Blood Moon division head exclaimed in admiration. Guardian's scheme is indeed amazing. As such, with Xianling sect as cannon fodder, we can minimize our casualties to the lowest. At that moment, the branch masters in the hall were burning with battle desire. Back then, the Holy Lord decreed that they rest and recuperate. After being trapped here for so many years, they finally welcomed a Blood Moon Guardian and could exercise their skills. This time, Yunshao sect would finally receive the rage of their Blood Moon division. Pass the order down. We will set off today and head to Xianling sect. Yi Qingtang said strictly. Yes. Everyone replied in uniformity. The Blood Moon sect was indeed extremely efficient. In just an hour, hundreds of Blood Moon sect members were gathered. As the Blood Moon Elder witnessed everything, he was rather astonished. Yi Qingtang's bold scheme actually succeeded for real. Currently, Yi Qingtang was seated in a huge, red carriage. 8 large demonic beasts had a huge metal chain on their necks as they pulled the carriage while moving forward. The Blood Moon division head and branch masters walked briskly by each side of the red carriage. Xianling sect, Wait for me. Yi Qingtang clenched her fists tightly with icy eyes. At the same time, on Drifting Cloud Island, a black demonic air surged in the sky, and rocks floated in the sky due to the resulting wild wind. It was like a scene in hell, with almost no living being in the area due to the brutal force of the evil spirit. Sometime later, the demonic air slowly dispersed, and a male appeared in the center. Almost instantly, an ancient might suddenly exploded from the male's body as though it was the reappearance of a true god from the primordial era that frightened the world and all beings. A dark green pair of eyes gazed at the sky as though they could see through eons. Long black hair cascaded down to his waist and swayed in the wind with an imposing aura. Indifference was filled on Han Kangming's face. As he waved, the remaining demonic aura vanished in an instant. The spirit energy in this land was ultimately not enough to repair his crumbling body. Han Songming was in deep thought. The veins on his neck reddened to a piercing sight. Your Highness. Sometime later, Mu Su walked forward respectfully. Speak, Han Songming said without emotions. Recently, Lady Yi headed to the Blood Moon sect. Mu Su spoke. His Highness' condition was very unstable these days, and even if he wished to leave Drifting Cloud Island, it was extremely difficult. His body would probably shatter should he be just a little careless. After Yi Qingtang appeared on Drifting Cloud Island the other time, His Highness ordered him to send someone to observe Yi Qingtang's condition. Blood Moon sect? Han Songming was indifferent. It is the sect that person founded 1,000 years ago. That's right, Mu Su nodded and said. I learned that Yunshao sect has sent powerful figures in the sect to exterminate Xianling sect. I don't know if it has any relations with Lady Yi heading to Blood Moon sect. Chapter 523, The Oncoming Storm, 2. Mu Su was rather worried. The Blood Moon Holy Lord was once the supreme being on this land and was like a god in everyone's eyes. Could it be that Lady Yi had some relations with him? Your Highness, it is best for us to not interfere in the battle between the sects of this mainland this time. Your Highness' powers must not be disclosed at all, especially. Otherwise, if the Heavenly Emperor senses it, I'm afraid. Mu Su had a look of worry. Without the heart of the demon god, His Highness was no longer the Heavenly Emperor's opponent and even had to rely on the faint power of faith to sustain his broken body. Moreover, there was a surge of the aura of the evil in His Highness' body. If the Heavenly Emperor located His Highness now, the situation would be far from encouraging. Han Songming frowned slightly without saying anything. Looking at His Highness' expression, Mu Su had some guesses in his heart and said immediately, Your Highness, how about I undertake the task of protecting Lady Yi's safety? Han Kangming's deep green eyes shut slowly, and he gave a slight nod. The battle between Xianling sect and Yunshao sect. Mu Su probed. There's no need to be involved in it, Han Songming said without emotions. Noted, Mu Su received the orders and said again. Your Highness, the preparations for the item that you wanted previously are already about completed. The Crimson Blood Pool should be constructed in a few months. As long as the Crimson Blood Pool was constructed, His Highness' body would be stable, and he could step out of Drifting Cloud Island. Han Songming nodded lightly. Then, Mu Su finally retreated. At this instant, the sound of war drums reverberated in Xianling sect. The Xianling war flag was flown in the sky. Over 10 inner sect disciples with determined expressions in their eyes hit the war drums. The Grand Elder, Sect Master, and other high-ranked executives stood above the hall. Report. Suddenly, a Xianling sect ran over and knelt on a knee. Yunshao sect is less than 50 miles away from Xianling sect and could reach in 1 hour. 50 miles. A few internal affairs elders looked at the Grand Elder. Activate the sect protection formation. The Grand Elder narrowed his eyes slightly as he ordered. As he finished his sentence, Elder Mo and the other internal affairs elders started the sect protection array formation with combined forces. Xianling sect had a long heritage, and although it could not be compared to Yunshao sect, it was not to be belittled as well. Very quickly, golden rays enveloped the entire Xianling sect. What about the Heavenly Elimination Formation? An internal affairs elder questioned. The heavenly elimination formation is laid. Hundreds of wardens replied uniformly. What about the earth-killing formation? The earth-killing formation is laid. At that point, Xianling sect had already made full preparations. No matter how powerful one was on this mainland, they had to pay a certain price if they wished to casually destroy a sect. There was at least 1,000 years of history for all sections. How could the heritage that the ancestors left behind be destroyed so easily? Boom, boom, boom. The war drums rang continuously, causing one to rise with force and spirit. Hoot! Suddenly, a long cry of a demonic beast echoed at the scene. The Xianling sect disciples looked up in astonishment. A gigantic demonic beast of a bird species flapped its wings. Its body was like a mountain range that extended for miles, while its voice was extremely horrifying and could crush rocks. A black glint emerged in that demonic beast's eyes. As its wings flapped, wild winds were stirred up in the surroundings, resembling a natural disaster. Yunshao sect? Sect protector divine beast. The people from Xianling sect were stunned. The aura of that divine beast seemed to have reached Yin Yang True Lord already, meaning it was one of the most formidable demonic beasts on this mainland. Chapter 524. The Oncoming Storm, 3. On this mainland, a sect's strength was not merely judged based on the skills of the high-ranking executives but more by the heritage passed down from 1,000 years ago. For example, that divine beast was one piece of Yunshao sect's heritage, and even the Yunshao sect master might not be as powerful as this divine beast. From a certain degree, Yin Yang True Lord already represented an almost unparalleled force. Yunshao sect? They truly want to exterminate the entire Xianling sect. An internal affairs elder sighed as he looked at the demonic beast, which was large enough to cover the entire sky. Even the divine beast was activated, and Yunshao sect's intention to annihilate Xianling sect was extremely clear. Elder Mo and the rest fell into silence as well. In just a while, a scarlet figure appeared. A scarlet nine-tailed spirit phoenix arrived slowly. Its eyes were filled with disdain as it glanced across the Xianling sect people in the golden formation. An aloof and arrogant girl stood on the nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Yunshao sect's Yiyu, a Xianling sect warden, frowned slightly. Yunshao sect's Yiyu was the sect master's most doted disciple. She possessed an extremely rare martial talent and possessed a blue spirit root. Currently, because her blue spirit root could automatically absorb the spirit energy in the air, her skills had improved extremely quickly. If Yi Qingtang were present, she would have sensed that the current Yiyu had advanced quite a fair bit from when she was on Drifting Cloud Island. Back then on Drifting Cloud Island, Yiyu was still at the first heaven of martial chi level 3, but in such a short span of time, Yiyu's cultivation base had already entered the early stage of the third heaven of martial chi level 3. In at most 15 minutes, more and more demonic beasts that ferried Yunshao sect elders and wardens arrived. On the back of the divine beast stood a young male. He appeared to be a little younger than 30 and had defined features, yet his every movement exuded destructive martial aura. Yunshao sect's internal affairs elder, the once #1 genius of Yunshao sect, Li Chenfeng? Elder Mo looked at that young male and frowned tightly. 10 years ago, Li Chenfeng was Yunshao sect's #1 genius, and 10 years on, he had already become Yunshao sect's internal affairs elder. It was evident that Li Chenfeng was no ordinary person. At that instant, many Yunshao sect disciples were standing in the air. There were at least 100 of them, and every one of them was Yunshao sect's elites whose martial skills were at least at the mid-stage of the first heaven of martial chi level 3. Boom, boom, boom. Within Xianling sect, the sound of the war drums was even more powerful, and every thunderous drum seemed to hit everyone's heart. Every Xianling sect disciple retrieved weapons and dharma treasures that they favored from the treasure pavilion. Some of the inner sect disciples whose skills were higher wielded black-grade spirit weapons and were burning with fighting spirit. At this instant, Xianling sect faced a calamity, and the treasure pavilion was opened up at no charge. Even though the disciple skills were not as good as those of Yunshao sect disciples, the difference was made up with the divine weapons and dharma treasures. In contrast, although Yunshao sect disciples were skilled, Yunshao sect's treasure pavilion would never be opened to the disciples for free. Yunshao sect's envoy is here. Xianling sect's grand elder better come out to pay respects quickly. At that instant, a Yunshao sect warden stood in the air proudly as he ordered coldly while overlooking below. Elder Mo sneered coldly. Why is the distinguished Yunshao sect visiting us? Your Xianling sect is so audacious to injure my sect's disciples. Today, you all must give us, Yunshao sect, an explanation, the Yunshao sect warden said. Chapter 525. What is a sect, one? Who is the disciple that you mentioned? The Xianling sect master smiled. Too many to be counted, the Yunshao sect warden said. That's rare. We caught a spy not long ago named Fu Lingtian. He has been killed by us. There was one more person called Ning Luo and was saved by 2 of the Yunshao sect disciples. Were you talking about them? The Xianling sect master said. Humph, don't talk so much. Your sect has committed too many sins. You better open the protection array and hand over 1 disciple. The Yunshao sect warden shouted coldly. Oh, which disciple do you want? The Xianling sect master still smiled and asked. Yi Qingtang. What a joke. Why would I hand over my sect's disciple to you? The Xianling sect master said coldly. Yi Qingtang of your sect has committed many crimes. She killed my sect master's disciple Yu Tiancheng and elder's disciple Li Jiwu. She even hurt 10 of my sect disciples, the Yunshao sect warden said. Everyone of the Xianling sect was stunned after his words. Qin Huan's and Zhu Cheng's faces were full of surprise. What joke is this? They want to frame junior sister Yi? Humph, what a joke. Yu Tiancheng and Li Jiwu both possessed the martial qi level 3 ability. How could junior sister Yi be able to kill them? Xianling sect's disciples shouted in rage. Qin Huan and Zhu Chang'e stared at each other in confusion. They had witnessed Yi Qingtang's terrifying fighting ability. They could believe that Yi Qingtang managed to kill Yu Tiancheng and Li Jiwu. However, no one could confirm whether what the Yunshao sect warden said was the truth. Everyone knew clearly that whether or not Yi Qingtang killed any Yunshao sect's disciples, it was just an excuse. The Yunshao sect would not let go of the Xianling sect. It was destined that the Yunshao sect wanted to kill everyone in the Xianling sect the day they discovered Yunshao sect's secrets. Yi Qingtang was just an excuse. Even if the Xianling sect handed over Yi Qingtang, the Yunshao sect would not stop killing the rest as well. Xianling sect, we'll give you 15 minutes to hand over Yi Qingtang. Time starts now. One of the Yunshao sect's elders said coldly. It's not necessary. If Yi Qingtang really killed your sect's disciples, I will say that's an excellent kill. The Xianling sect master's eyes were cold, and he waved his hand. Everyone was silent after he finished his sentences. Excellent kill. Soon, the Xianling sect disciples broke the silence and shouted together. Excellent kill! Excellent kill! Excellent kill! Thousands of voices were like deafening thunder that exploded in the sky. It was the truth that the Yunshao sect wanted to kill everyone in the Xianling sect. The fight was inevitable, and that made the Yunshao sect the enemy. Was it not excellent that Yi Qingtang killed the enemy sect's disciples? Who deserved to be dead? Li Chenfeng, who sat on top of the Yunshao sect's divine beast, said his first few words. Who deserved to be dead? Who deserved to be dead? Who deserved to be dead? The few hundreds of Yunshao sect's inner sect disciples shouted together. Today will be the fall of Xianling sect, an elder of the Yunshao sect said, and a cold glint shone in his eyes. The sect master said that they must catch Yi Qingtang today no matter what happened. If not because of that, they would not have wasted so much time to talk to the Xianling sect. Chapter 526. What is a sect? 2. What do we do when our friends come? Elder Huang of the outer sect shouted. We welcome them with the best wine. What do we do when our enemies come? We use our blood to soak Zunling's flag. We use our heart to light Zunling's anger. We use our hands to hit Zunling's drums. Kill! 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 Thousands of disciples shouted together. The fighting spirit was so intense in their eyes that death was not something that they were afraid of. Kill everyone of the Xianling sect. Li Chenfeng's eyes were full of disdain. He sat on the divine beast and commanded. Few hundreds of Yunshao sect disciples immediately dashed towards Xianling sect. Boom! Weapons were waving in the sky and landed on the protection array of Xianling sect. The golden rays of lights did not go out but were getting more intense. Even the smallest sect contained huge power and backups. If not, why would they establish the sect? The golden array formation was the protection formation of the Xianling sect. It would not be easy even if a yin-yang true lord wanted to break it. The hitting sound of the weapons was heard above the void. Hundreds of Yunshao sect disciples combined their power, trying to break the protection golden array. However, only small ripples appeared on the golden formation. Xianling sect has some power, one of the Yunshao sect elders said coldly. Swoosh! The elder flew downward and concentrated all his primordial qi at the golden formation. Oh? The elder was shocked as the golden formation was still intact. Please let the divine beast attack. The elder looked towards Li Chenfeng. Plink. The divine beast attacked with its beak instantly. It seemed to be the most terrifying weapon in the world and pecked towards the golden array formation. Boom, boom. Ripples appeared constantly on the golden formation as the divine beast attacked. After a dozen attacks, the golden rays of lights seemed to be dimmer. The golden array formation was broken under the attack from the divine beast's beak after 10 minutes. Golden rays of lights filled the sky and dropped like golden rain. Kill! Few hundred Yunshao sect disciples rushed into the Xianling sect the moment the golden array formation was broken. Turn on the heaven elimination formation. The Xianling sect master shouted. A ray of illusory light appeared suddenly and formed into a net when he finished his words. It wrapped towards the Yunshao sect disciples. The few hundreds of Yunshao sect disciples sensed the terrifying power of the illusory light. Their faces suddenly changed and they backed off. However, a few elite inner sect disciples of the Yunshao sect could not escape on time and were surrounded by the net. The illusory light chopped those elite disciples of the Yunshao sect into pieces at a speed that could be witnessed by the naked eye. Blood spurted everywhere. Heaven elimination formation? One of the Yunshao sect elders frowned. Turn on the earth-killing formation. The Xianling sect master commanded again suddenly. The ground at the Xianling sect suddenly turned into a pool of blood at the next second. Hundreds of hands of blood condensed from the pool of blood. Before the Yunshao sect wardens and the elite disciples could figure out what was happening, they were caught by the hands of blood and dragged into the pool of blood. The pool of blood was like a swamp. Once someone sank into it, struggling would accelerate their death. Apparently, the few Yunshao sect disciples and wardens were not clear about that. They struggled to get rid of the pool of blood but eventually were submerged. One of the Yunshao sect elders tried to suppress the power of the formations after witnessing their terrifying ability. However, the Yunshao sect elder looked down on the power of the two formations. One of his arms was chopped off by the heaven elimination formation. Chapter 527 What is a sect? 3. Though the price was huge, the Yunshao sect elder managed to destroy the two array formations. Xianling sect. I really looked down on their power and background. The elder who lost an arm gritted his teeth. The Xianling sect had killed near 10 of their elite inner sect disciples, 3 sect wardens, and one of his arms before they even engaged in the fight. From what the Yunshao sect knew in the past, Xianling sect's quality was the worst compared to that of the Wind Moon sect and the Qinglin sect. That was the reason why they thought that Xianling sect's power and background was the worst as well. However, the Yunshao sect elders and the wardens realized that they were wrong only at this moment. Xianling sect's power and background were not ordinary. Rare array formations like the Golden Formation, Heaven Elimination Formation, and the Earth-Killing Formation could not be used by weak sections. Xianling sect's power was definitely not the weakest in the 3 sections. It might be the strongest. After the 2 formations were destroyed by the Yunshao sect elder with the price of an arm, Yunshao sect disciples and wardens rushed inside without any concern. Kill everyone who intrudes the Xianling sect. Feng Moli's body turned into a ball of red flame and dashed towards the Yunshao sect disciples. Whiz. Those stronger inner sect disciples of Xianling sect rushed along with Feng Moli towards the Yunshao sect disciples immediately. The voices seemed to be able to break through the sky and exploded beside one's ears. Feng Moli's ability was among the top 10 in the Xianling sect. He was also one of the 10 core disciples of the sect. He had entered the second heaven of martial chi level 2 and possessed a fire elemental paragon skill. After the treasure pavilion was opened, he took out a dream fire elemental weapon. His paragon skill was strengthened by a few times with the weapon as the source. One of the Yunshao sect disciples moved swiftly and blocked Feng Moli's way. His cold eyesight landed on Feng Moli, and it was full of disdain. Swoosh. He pulled out his sword and slashed down towards Feng Moli. In almost a split second, Feng Moli's body turned into flames and spread out. The paragon skill? Some Yunshao sect disciples also paid attention over. The paragon skill was rare in the Yunshao sect as well. Only 2 people possessed the paragon skill. One of them was the Holy Lady Yiyu, and the other one was Ning Luo. When Ning Luo was on the undercover mission at the Xianling sect, he purposely hid his paragon skill. However, the Yunshao sect knew about that. Once cultivators understood the paragon skill, it could compensate for the differences in cultivation levels. They could kill someone of higher levels easily. Now that Feng Moli possessed the Xianling sect's fire elemental weapon, his power was too great to be defended. Scorching sun. Soon, flames concentrated in the air and reformed Feng Moli's body. He said the words softly and extended his index finger. Huge scorching flames were concentrated. The flames were like the burning sun in the sky. The flame dashed into the sky at the next second. It swiped through the sky swiftly, and the air seemed to evaporate under the high temperature. The Yunshao sect disciple frowned and tried to defend the flame with his sword. Boom! The sun-like flames exploded, and that disciple took a few steps back under the force. A few Yunshao sect disciples rushed over when they witnessed there was someone of the Xianling sect who possessed the paragon skill. It's none of your business when junior brother Feng is in a one-on-one fight. A furious roar spread through the place, and a man used his physical power to hit one of the Yunshao sect disciples who intended to interfere away. Chapter 528. What is a sect? 4. The man was strong and wore a bamboo hat. There was a ferocious scar beside his eyes. Senior brother Yuanhu. His ability is the second in the inner sect. He has reached the peak of the third heaven of the martial chi level 2. Many inner sect disciples were excited when they saw Yuanhu appeared. How dare you! One of the Yunshao sect's inner sect elites had eyes filled with anger. The Xianling sect disciples' abilities could not even be compared to those of the Yunshao sect disciples, but they relied on the treasure and weapons of the Xianling sect to increase their own abilities. Fierce bell. The Yunshao sect disciple threw a copper bell into the air. The small bell increased in size once it was released into the sky. It only took 2 breaths' time for it to be insanely huge. Deafening bell rings filled the sky, and the bell pressed down towards Yunhu. The huge bell was also a Dharma treasure. Before the huge bell could press down, a huge cyan palm appeared in the sky. Boom! A deafening sound exploded in the sky. The cyan palm headed towards the huge bell, and they hit each other heavily. Yuanhu and the rest took the gap to step back and avoided the attack from the bell. The cyan palm was withdrawn by a young man after seeing that the Xianling sect disciples had escaped. Senior brother Emo. The young man was handsome and sophisticated, but he was not dressed in a Xianling sect disciple's attire. Many Xianling sect inner sect disciples felt delighted when they saw the young man. They headed towards him. Sect Master, Emo Changkong is here. The young man held the cyan print and greeted the sect master. Good. The Xianling sect master nodded. A smile passed his eyes as he stared at the young man. Emo Changkong was Elder Mo's son and the previous top disciple of Xianling sect. His ability surpassed everyone else's, and he had left the sect many years ago. Now that the sect was in danger, he came back to help. Elder Emo felt rejoiced as he saw Emo Changkong. He was not only his son but also one of his disciples like Yi Qingtang, of which he felt most proud. Mo Changkong scanned around and looked at the Xianling sect inner sect disciples. He wielded his hand. Kill! 10 of the Xianling sect disciples headed forward instantly. Yun Shu, Lin Long, and Gu Yanqiu, together with the other outer sect disciples who remained, did not join the fight. They were in charge of helping those injured disciples. Ow! Large amounts of blood spurted out of one Xianling sect disciple's mouth as he lay in front of Yun Shu. I'm sorry, Yun Shu gritted his teeth. He felt that he was so helpless for the first time as he saw the blood on his hands. You must live. The disciple held Yun Shu's and Lin Long's hands tightly. It seemed that he used all his strength to finish the words. His arms fell to the ground as he finished his words. His eyes were still open as if he was not willing to accept his death. Lin Long's head was filled with the scenes of the disciples of both inner and outer sect gathering and celebrating yesterday as she witnessed the corpses around her. However, the beating sounds of the drum pulled her back to the harsh reality. Though Xianling sect had a lot of disciples, not everyone had weapons. The treasures and divine weapons in the treasure pavilion were limited. Disciples whose abilities were weaker were all willing to give the divine weapons to those stronger. Only those who were strong were able to exploit the divine weapons completely. There were quite a few injuries at Xianling sect, but the Yunshao sect also lost 10 inner sect elites. Chapter 529 What is a sect? 5. The leaders of the two sects did not move at all. The Grand Elder and the sect master stared at the divine beast of Yunshao sect constantly. If they took a move first and did not manage to stop the divine beast, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Xianling sect master gritted his teeth. It was not that they did not want to attack, they could not. The sect master's eyes were red as he saw those who died during the fight. He bowed to them, and that was the only thing he could do now. He felt so helpless and blamed himself constantly. The fight between the two sects could be compared to the ones among the dynasty. He could not do things based on his feelings, he could only bear with them no matter how painful they were. Feng Moli's body flew and was knocked onto a rock at one of the corners in the sect. Feng Moli slowly got up in the debris. Blood spilled out of his mouth. He was the renowned tyrant in the inner sect, but now he was using his life to fight and to guard the sect. One Yunshao sect disciple who dressed in a white robe walked towards Feng Moli. His eyes were indifferent, and he held a yellow-grade weapon. The Paragon's skill is strong. You could use it to block 300 of my moves, and it even killed my senior brother, the man said softly. Feng Moli gnashed his teeth. Swoosh! The man chopped his sword down at Feng Moli. A cyan sword glint appeared suddenly and hit the Yunshao sect disciple. He flew away under the force. Moli, are you all right? Zhu Chang'e went forward and helped Feng Moli to get up. Thank you, Feng Moli said. You should thank the black-grade spirit weapon in my hand. Zhu Chang'e smiled. Feng Moli sized the cyan sword up, and the sword released terrifying force. There were 10 black-grade spirit weapons in the treasure pavilion. The one in Zhu Chang'e's hand was one of them. How dare you! The disciple who was hit by the sword aura opened his eyes wide in rage and shouted. Swoosh! 2 Xianling sect inner sect disciples took a leap and landed. There was one man and one woman. Both of them held black-grade divine weapons. The sword was pure black, and the knife was pure red. The knife and the sword chopped down at the same time and released dazzling luster. The forces combined and produced a super strong attack. Boom! The Yunshao sect disciple exploded into pieces under the force before he realized what was going on. Sun-scorching knife and the moon ice sword, so powerful, Feng Moli was totally shocked. The one holding the sun-scorching knife was the current top disciple of Xianling sect, Han Qingyun. The woman was one of the core disciples, Su Exing. The sun-scorching knife and the moon ice sword are the strongest black-grade weapons in our sect. We could show the greatest power of the two weapons all because of our love, Han Qingyun said softly. Su Xin's face was slightly red. Only people whose hearts are connected can show the greatest power of the sun-scorching knife and the moon ice sword. Senior brother, Senior Sister Su Xin's and your abilities are able to use the weapons completely and pose threats to the elders of the Yunshao sect, Zhu Chang'e said. Han Qingyun was the top disciple of Xianling sect this year. His ability was comparable to that of Xianling sect elders. Su Xin's ability was slightly lower but not by a big difference. When the two of them combined their powers with the yin-yang weapons, the Yunshao sect disciples had no other ways besides death, as they did not possess any treasures and only their own cultivation skills. Chapter 530 What is a sect? 6. Senior Brother Feng. Very quickly, Yun Shu, Lin Long, and a team of outer sect disciples hurried over. Lin Long and the rest rapidly cleaned and bandaged Feng Moli's wounds while Yun Shu took out a healing elixir for Feng Moli to consume. This was Xianling sect's territory, and naturally, the sect would go all out in providing elixirs. After consuming the pill, Feng Moli's complexion turned a little better. Humph! Then, a cold scoff sounded from the air. The elder whose arm was chopped off previously brought a demonic beast that Yunshao sect raised, and they descended into Xianling sect. The demonic beast roared and barged into the crowd of Xianling sect disciples, slaughtering a few outer sect disciples who were providing first aid. The inner sect disciples who were heavily injured were shocked. Before they could take out a Dharma treasure to counterattack, they were already torn into pieces by the demonic beast. Seeing that the Yunshao sect elder with a severed arm descended from the sky with a demonic beast, killing a few outer sect disciples and severely injured senior disciples, the Xianling sect inner sect elites in the surroundings felt their eyes redden. They charged forward at the same time and used the Dharma treasure in their hands, wanting to fight them with all their might. Get lost! The elder with a severed arm shouted sternly, sending a strange sound wave which had many ripples. Very quickly, the numerous inner sect elites stopped in their tracks at an instant and hugged their heads in agony. Blood flowed out from their noses and ears. Immediately, Elder Qin rushed forward with a blue gourd in his hand. In an instant, all the sound waves were dismissed by that blue gourd. Oh! The Yunshao sect elder with a severed arm was slightly stunned to see the blue gourd in Elder Qin's hand. I said that Xianling sect's heritage is not bad, but I didn't expect that it would actually have such a Dharma treasure. Elder Qin did not bother with him as he looked at his surroundings and shouted with a frown. Where's the first aid team? After hearing Elder Qin, several outer sect disciples dashed over. Bring them down to treat them, Elder Qin said with a low voice. Yes. The leader of the outer sect disciples nodded and hurriedly ordered people to support those injured inner sect elites. They still can continue to fight. An elite disciple was unwilling to give up and struggled to stand up. However, with just a small action, large amounts of blood seeped out of his wound, and his complexion was as pale as paper. That's right. This small injury is not worth mentioning. At the sect's critical juncture, how can we? Another elite disciple used a sword to support himself up. Nonsense. Elder Qin waved a hand and cut their sentences short. Retreat down and heal your injuries. Yes. The inner sect disciples gritted their teeth and could only retreat with the support of the outer sect disciples. Hold on. Suddenly, an inner sect disciple stopped and looked towards a Xianling sect disciple who was in battle. Senior Brother Li, receive the Dharma treasure, purple golden rod. With a shout, she threw the Dharma treasure in her hand to a Xianling sect disciple. Many thanks. After catching it, Senior Brother Li was slightly shaken. He tightened his grip on the purple golden rod quietly, and a grateful expression could be seen on his face. Immediately, the injured inner sect disciples followed successively and threw their Dharma treasures to the inner sect disciples nearby. Senior Brother Wang, receive the Dharma treasure, Black Sky Seal. Junior Sister Zhou, receive the Dharma treasure, Demon Binding Rope. Junior Brother Lin, receive the Dharma treasure, Turquoise Heart Lock. The precious Dharma treasures were handed over one by one. After they saw the inner sect disciples catching their Dharma treasures successfully, those injured elite disciples finally retreated in disappointment. Chapter 531 What is a sect? 7. They only hoped that this force could help the sect, and that would be enough. At that instant, Elder Qin and that Yunshao sect elder with a severed arm were in a brawl. If based on their individual skills, Elder Qin was definitely not the opponent of this Yunshao sect elder. There was quite a gap in their skills. However, Elder Qin had the blue gourd. Die! The elder with a severed arm hollered as the frightening primordial qi in his body turned into a giant palm that flew towards Elder Qin. However, Elder Qin lifted his right arm, and the blue gourd emitted a blinding light. In the next second, the giant palm formed by primordial qi was actually sucked into the blue gourd. Back to you! Elder Qin scoffed as he released the giant palm from the gourd. The move that the Yunshao sect elder used initially was instead used by Elder Qin then as he returned the attack back at the Yunshao sect elder. Boom! Caught unprepared, the Yunshao sect elder was struck by his own attack and retreated a few steps continuously. A cold glint flickered in his eyes continuously. It seemed that they really underestimated Xianling sect's heritage. However, once Xianling sect was annihilated this time, all of Xianling sect's treasures would belong to Yunshao sect. The gourd in your hand is indeed pretty good. Hand it to me on your own accord, and I will give you a straightforward death. How about that? The Yunshao sect elder with a severed arm looked at Elder Qin and snickered coldly. Come and take it yourself if you want it. There were no emotions on Elder Qin's face as a murderous look filled his eyes. Before waiting for the Yunshao sect elder to continue saying anything, Elder Mo suddenly drifted above them. Immediately, a word scroll was opened. There was only one word on that scroll: kill. As the jet black words on the scroll appeared, an ancient aura emerged. That is, Yi Yu, who was standing on the nine-tailed spirit phoenix in midair, frowned. This should be a paragon dharma treasure and a corner of the godly execution roll. I never thought it was actually obtained by Xianling sect. The Yunshao sect internal affairs elder, Li Chunfeng, muttered. Paragon Dharma treasures were the oldest and finest Dharma treasures on this mainland, and the godly execution roll was a calligraphy scroll that contained the mighty power of a god, which was thought to have disappeared a long time ago. The word kill on the godly execution roll was coincidentally obtained by Xianling sect's grand elder in a certain cave when he was training in his younger days. Swiftly, a horrifying killing intent erupted from the word. In an instant, blood spouted out from the mouths and noses of more than 10 Yunshao sect disciples as well as that elder with a severed arm. All of them collapsed on the ground at the same time and were enshrouded by the killing intent. They died instantly without any struggle at all. Strike! Li Chunfeng bent down and patted the back of the divine beast gently. Roar! The demonic beast whose body covered the sky finally moved. Its tail swept across and crashed down like a mountain peak. Many inner sect disciples looked up in the sky only to discover that that demonic beast which had the combat power of a yin-yang true lord had already attacked. A monstrous might descended from the sky like a destructive force and crashed down with a loud rumble. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, those Xianling sect inner sect disciples had a smile on their lips without any fear on their faces. They slowly shut their eyes as their blood-stained lips parted slightly to let out the last chant of their lives. We use our blood to soak Zuanling's flag. We use our heart to light Zuanling's anger. We use our hands to hit Zuanling's drums. Farewell. Chapter 532 Xianling Patriarch 1. Boom. A sound resembling a natural disaster rang. With the sweep of the demonic beast's tail, numerous Xianling inner sect disciples were crushed into pieces instantly. What remained was only the echoes of their once spirited cries before they died. They swore to exist and perish together with Xianling sect. As that demonic beast finally struck, the Grand Elder appeared. At that instant, there was a huge gold coffin behind the Grand Elder. His steps were heavy and expression dark as he walked into Xianling sect. Xianling sect master and the internal affairs elders followed beside the Grand Elder. In no time, Elder Mo descended from midair as well. Boom! The gold coffin was placed down by the Grand Elder, and there was a tremor in the ground. Everyone stared at the huge gold coffin in confusion, with the Xianling sect people, especially, wearing strange expressions. Swiftly, with the Xianling sect people looking on in astonishment, the Grand Elder and Sect Master along with the several internal affairs elders knelt before the huge golden coffin. We are unfilial. We are unable to protect Xianling sect well. At this moment, Xianling sect is at the border between life and death. Please, Patriarch. Boom. As the Grand Elder spoke, the enormous gold coffin exploded instantly. Once the dust dispersed, a skinny elderly with white hair and a ruddy complexion was standing in the gold coffin silently. Patriarch. Seeing the elderly who walked out from the gold coffin, Xianling sect master and the rest clenched their fists immediately. The powerful figures of the sect recounted in a tearful voice. It is our fault, for alarming you, Patriarch. Yunshao sect is bullying our Xianling sect. Please give us justice, Patriarch. Elder Mo knelt on the floor, not daring to look up. However, that elderly who was donned in a long blue robe did not say anything as he looked ahead at Yunshao sect's divine beast without any expression. That person is... On the nine-tailed spirit phoenix, Yi was slightly stunned to see the elderly walking out from the gold coffin. A look of astonishment flashed across her eyes. Xianling sect's founder. Xianling Patriarch. There was finally a cautious expression in Li Chenfeng's eyes. Xianling Patriarch was born 2,000 years ago and was once one of the extremely powerful figures on this mainland. He was absorbed in martial arts and was unable to extricate himself from it. When he was 100 years old, he founded Xianling sect himself and was the most powerful person in Xianling sect history. He was known as the Xianling Patriarch. The Xianling Patriarch should already be dead. Yiyu's brows were slightly furrowed. She was filled with confusion as she looked at the elderly who walked out slowly. Indeed. Li Chenfeng frowned, carefully sizing up that almost unrivaled elderly. His eyes flickered suddenly as he spoke. So that's the case. There is still a trace of vitality in his body. Before the Xianling Patriarch died, he used a unique method to seal his final breath, so as to leave a last chip for Xianling sect to protect the sect. This time, Xianling sect encountered a calamity, and they ultimately invited the Xianling Patriarch. In that case, the Xianling Patriarch will not be able to sustain this appearance for long. Yiyu's eyes flickered as she sharply caught the main point in Li Chenfeng's words. Since it was the final breath he sealed before death, it would not be able to sustain for too much time. Exactly. Li Chenfeng nodded. Yet even though the Xianling Patriarch would completely die after a while, his skills were unquestionable. Roar! Yunshao sect's divine beast roared furiously, and its giant tail swept at the Xianling Patriarch. Chapter 533 Xianling Patriarch 2. There were no emotions on the Xianling Patriarch's face, and there was no change in the look of his eyes. Once the giant nine-tailed spirit phoenix's tail swept over, he vanished instantly. In the next second, however, he suddenly appeared on the back of the divine beast and came face to face with Li Chenfeng. In Xianling sect, the Grand Elder felt repression in his heart as he looked at the back view of the Xianling Patriarch. The Patriarch knows that he is unable to sustain for long and wants to defeat the enemy by capturing their chief. Thus, he is helping us to settle Li Chenfeng. With the Patriarch's last breath, he can only execute one move. Elder Qin said with a tight frown. Amongst all the people who came from Yunshao sect, only Li Chenfeng can control the divine beast. If Li Chenfeng is killed by the Patriarch, we can stop Yunshao sect. Xianling sect master sighed. This was Xianling sect's final card, and they could only put their all into the fight no matter what. On the back of the divine beast. Xianling Patriarch is indeed powerful, Li Chenfeng said with a laugh as he looked at the utterly silent elderly. The Xianling Patriarch was not mute, but he could not say anything at that moment, even if it was a single word. He had already burned out 1,000 years ago and only had one last breath in his mouth. If he opened his mouth and this breath escaped, he would be completely dead. He would definitely not speak before he helped Xianling sect to resolve the great danger immediately. The Xianling Patriarch's hand moved towards Li Chenfeng. This move was extremely slow. However, Li Chenfeng's expression changed drastically, and a look of shock emerged in his eyes. The Xianling Patriarch's hand accumulated a force that was converted by his final breath that had been sealed for a long time. Although it was extremely slow, it contained the great force of the world, and it was as though the sky would crack from his attack. At that instant, time seemed to stop. It was a dead silence. The world seemed to turn around from the Xianling Patriarch's strike, and it was as if it could no longer operate properly. The attack was extremely profound and could no longer be described with words. Li Chenfeng was simply unable to move, and he could only watch the Xianling Patriarch's hand approach him slowly. Boom! There was a loud rumble as though heaven and earth clashed. The palm finally landed on Li Chenfeng. As the palm landed, the great force finally faded gradually. There was a smile on Li Chenfeng's lips as he instantly turned into a talisman that was burned into nothingness. Xianling Patriarch is indeed powerful. Li Chenfeng's voice sounded from behind. It was then that the Xianling sect masses saw that Li Chenfeng appeared in front of Yi Yu, and he stood on top of Yi Yu's nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Paragon Dharma Treasure? Substitute spell? The Xianling sect master was appalled and could not believe it. Similar to the godly execution roll, the substitute spell was also a paragon dharma treasure that could block a fatal blow. Unexpectedly, Li Chenfeng actually brought a substitute spell with him to Xianling sect to play safe in case Xianling sect had a strong treasure. How hateful! Elder Qin and other internal affairs elder were extremely indignant. Who could have expected that Li Chenfeng would actually have the substitute spell paragon dharma treasure? Xianling sect's inheritance is indeed beyond expectations. A smile appeared on Yi Yu's exquisite face. Towering above everyone with an elegant stance, sarcasm filled her eyes as she continued on. Too bad. No matter what, it cannot be compared to my Yunshao sect. Even though Xianling sect sought for all kinds of solutions, the opponent they faced was a super sect like Yunshao sect. Chapter 534 Xianling Patriarch 3. What a pity! Despite inviting the Xianling Patriarch out, you all still could not kill me. Li Chenfeng snickered at the Xianling sect masses. At that instant, a lonely figure on the back of the divine beast slowly turned into dust. He sealed his final breath and stored himself in a gold coffin, all to benefit the descendants of Xianling sect. He had long predicted that Xianling sect would face a calamity in the future. He initially thought that there would perhaps be a day when the descendants of Xianling sect would wake him up, and he would not hesitate to use his final breath to protect Xianling sect. In the coffin today, he heard someone calling him. He heard the Xianling descendants that he had never forgotten about inviting him out of the coffin. However, the elderly looked down at Xianling sect with reluctance. Everyone! There was a trace of regret on his face. Sorry. Boom. The elderly completely disappeared into nothingness before everyone's eyes. As the Xianling Patriarch's last breath faded, his reluctant eyes in his final moment touched everyone's hearts deeply. The Xianling sect disciples fell into silence. The Xianling sect master, Grand Elder, and the rest had a pained expression and felt ashamed for not being able to do anything. Xianling sect, what other heritage do you have? You might as well use them. Li Chenfeng returned to the back of the divine beast and looked down at the Xianling sect masses. Xianling sect had already used all their cards then, and even the Xianling Patriarch was unable to kill Li Chenfeng. Since that's the case, annihilate them. As Li Chenfeng finished his sentence, the divine beast charged towards Xianling sect instantly. In the next second, the Grand Elder and Xianling sect master along with the internal sect elders had already viewed death with equanimity as they welcomed the divine beast. However, two internal affairs elders were already slaughtered by the divine beast just by coming face to face with it, while Elder Mo and the Xianling sect master were flung away and spat large amounts of blood, unable to overcome the enemy. At this point, it was as though the Yunshao sect disciples and wardens entered an uninhabited place. As the divine beast put on display its almost unrivaled power, Xianling sect was filled with dead corpses just like the abyss of Azura hell. Junior brother Zhou, help us to sound the Xianling war drum. Mo Chongkong told a disciple softly. Previously, the disciples who beat the drum had already died. Okay. With a determined expression, that disciple picked up the warhammer, walked forward with great strides, and beat the Xianling war drum powerfully. Boom, boom, boom. As the Xianling war drum rang, Feng Moli, Emo Changkong, and the rest went against the current and charged towards the Yunshao sect disciples. Before long, Qin Huan spouted a mouthful of blood and was flung away. Die! A Yunshao sect disciple charged towards Qin Huan with a long sword in hand. What do I fear? The corners of Qin Huan's lips tugged up slightly as he closed his eyes. Suddenly, a demon-subduing pagoda appeared in midair. In just the blink of an eye, that Yunshao sect disciple was killed from the impact of the demon-subduing pagoda which appeared from nowhere. Qin Huan stared at the large pagoda before him in confusion. In midair, a man in white with a righteous expression looked at Yunshao sect coldly. Ji Xuan from Falling Sky Valley? A few Yunshao sect top disciples were surprised to see that young male. How dare a Falling Sky Valley disciple come over to the formidable Heavens dynasty to mind their Yunshao sect's business? Previously, Xianling sect's grand elder had saved his life once. Upon learning that Xianling sect was met with trouble, he rushed over at top speed. Senior brother Ji. Emo Changkong flew up to stand beside Ji Xuan. Chapter 535 Arriving with Troops, 1. Junior brother Emo? Ji Xuan was a little stunned to see Emo Changkong. After leaving Xianling sect, Emo Changkong had been cultivating in Falling Sky Valley and was martial brothers with Ji Xuan. Oh right, I remember that you were a Xianling sect disciple before you entered Falling Sky Valley, Ji Xuan said after thinking a bit. Why are you here, senior brother Ji? Emo Changkong was puzzled. To repay a favor, Ji Xuan replied. Xianling sect's grand elder had once saved Ji Xuan very long ago, and Ji Xuan was almost killed by Yunshao sect a while back. As a result, he had been suppressing this anger for a long time. Ji Xuan, you intruded into the formidable Heavens dynasty and killed my Yunshao sect disciple. You have a death wish. A Yunshao sect top disciple shouted sternly at Ji Xuan. Ji Xuan scoffed immediately. Formidable Heavens dynasty did not even forbid me from entering. What do you think you are, Yunshao sect? Your sect sent someone to tail after and assassinate me a while back, and I have not forgotten about this. Now that we meet today, I'll just kill to my heart's content. Ji Xuan had already returned to Falling Sky Valley and handed the regeneration stone to his master. Now he no longer had any worries, and so be it if he died there. You're here to throw your life away, aren't you? A Yunshao sect warden sneered. I dare not say I'm here to throw my life away. It is not a loss when I kill one person, but I profit by one person when I kill two people. I would naturally engage in this profitable transaction. Ji Xuan did not have any fear at all. Then Ji Xuan did not bother with the nonsense and brandished the demon-subduing pagoda, charging towards the Yunshao sect disciples. Presently, Xianling sect was already a spent force with countless casualties of high-ranking executives and wardens. The number of inner sect disciples who could fight was already less than 100. Flame God! Feng Moli shouted, and his body turned into a raging fireball as he rammed against a Yunshao sect disciple. Sush! Xianling sect's top disciple, Han Qingyun and Su Exin, brandished the yin-yang weapons and inflicted heavy damage to a Yunshao sect warden. Yin-yang weapons. On the nine-tailed spirit phoenix, Yiyu's eyes were ice cold. Yiyu rose immediately and flew towards Han Qingyun and Su Exin. 15 minutes later, after killing several Yunshao sect disciples, Ji Xuan, Emo Changkong, and the rest were already heavily injured. Do you all still want to continue resisting? Yiyu overlooked the Xianling sect masses arrogantly. Her left hand gripped onto the yin-yang weapons while her right lifted two heads with eyes wide open. Senior brother Han. Senior sister Su Exin. At that instant, the Xianling sect disciples were utterly shaken after seeing Han Qinjian's and Su Xin's heads. Yuan Hu, Qin Huan, and even Feng Moli clenched their fists tightly as a fog emerged in their eyes. A man did not shed tears easily, unless deeply hurt. Lin Long was lifeless as she gazed at Xianling's sect, which now resembled Azura hell. The Xianling war drum was already broken. The Xianling war flag was already torn. The Xianling disciples were mostly dead from the battle. But to Lin Long, it seemed that the Xianling war drums never stopped ringing. The war flag was still held high while the disciples were still gathered together that night as they talked about life over wine, occasionally waving swords and learning martial skills from each other. There seemed to be heroic voices by her ears which seemed to be the loud cries of those unyielding Xianling spirits that have lost their lives in the battle. We use our blood to soak Zunling's flag. We use our heart to light Zunling's anger. We use our hands to hit Zunling's drums. No one in Xianling's sect could block Yunshao sect's divine beast. In less than half a day, Xianling's sect was filled with dead bodies. The Grand Elder, Sect Master, and other high-ranking executives were severely injured and had lost their combat capability, and more than half of the thousands of disciples were dead or injured. At this point, it seemed that the curtains were about to be brought down on this battle. However, at this moment, a screeching sound and roars of demonic beasts came from far away. Devilish red shadows seemed to cover the entire sky as blood-colored robes could be seen in the sky. 8 scarlet demonic beasts pulled a huge blood-colored carriage and appeared slowly. There was a frighteningly fierce air in the surroundings. Hundreds of sect members in red robes surrounded the blood carriage without any emotions. Dozens of blood-colored war horses hovered in the sky with an imposing bravado. Boom, boom, boom. The war drums sounded once again. At this moment, the Yunshao sect masses were stunned as they looked in the sky. Even Li Chenfeng could not help but be taken aback. Blood Moon Sect. Chapter 536 Arriving with Troops, 2. Right above Xianling's sect, war drums sounded continuously with the galloping of millions of horses that resounded beneath the sky. As the blood-colored shadows enshrouded the sky, it seemed like the air of death was swept in together. The colossus that was annihilated 1,000 years ago appeared in the world once again. The sound of the blood moon godly drum that was almost forgotten persisted once again. 8 demonic beasts let out a terrifying roar as though the rage that had been accumulated for 1,000 years was about to flood out. This scene finally caused one to recall the times that were almost forgotten. They were the ones who were once the kings of this world. The Xianling sect masses were extremely shaken as they looked at the sect members in blood robes above the sky. There was an embroidery of a blood crescent which was Blood Moon Sect's symbol on the blood robe. Blood Moon Sect. The Yunshao sect disciples were stupefied and could not believe the sight. The words Blood Moon Sect were a taboo on this mainland. 1,000 years ago, it was like a scarlet storm that engulfed this mainland as it toyed with the entire place in its hand. It actually is the Blood Moon Sect. On the 9-tailed spirit phoenix, Yiyu frowned slightly as she looked at Li Chenfeng. However, Li Chenfeng's brows were tightly furrowed like never before at that moment. The blood moon would reappear in 1,000 years. Whoever wields power shall not idle, as it is our great undertaking for immortality to wreak havoc over a jovial talk. Li Chenfeng mumbled. Back when the Blood Moon sect was annihilated by the combined forces of the sects on this mainland, the Blood Moon Holy Lord left these words behind and disappeared from the world. Suddenly, Li Chenfeng stared in disbelief at the blood-colored carriage that the 8 demonic beasts were pulling. Could it be that a certain important figure of Blood Moon sect resurrected? 8,000 years ago, the Blood Moon Holy Lord stood in the sky and declared to the world that there would ultimately be a day when the Blood Moon would appear once again and wreak havoc. With the resounding Blood Moon sect war drums, perhaps it reflected what the Blood Moon Holy Lord once said. Blood Moon sect would eventually appear once again and paint the 9th heaven with blood. Tsk tisk. Blood Demon laughed so sinisterly that one's hair stood on ends as he scanned the surroundings. Yunshao sect seems to only know how to bully these small sections. What did you say? A Yunshao sect disciple shouted immediately. Upon hearing that, a blood-colored glint flickered in Blood Demon's eyes, and he landed on that Yunshao sect disciple in a second. Before that Yunshao sect disciple even knew what had happened, he turned into a pool of blood water and was absorbed by blood demon. This sight caused the Yunshao sect disciples present to gasp. Blood Moon sect? One of the 108 branch masters. Blood Demon Branch Master. Blood Moon Branch Masters were Blood Moon sect's core military strength, and every branch master's skills were unquestionable. Little kid. Blood Demon laughed coldly and subsequently returned to far away. You all? Upon noticing the situation, a few Yunshao sect elders immediately drew out their weapons. However, they were stopped by Li Chunfeng. Blood Moon sect shocked many in the world. It is a great honor to meet you all today, Li Chunfeng said with a smile. During Blood Moon sect's peak, they were a colossus, and even a super sect like Yunshao sect did not dare to offend them at all. If not for the fact that the Blood Moon sect was too powerful and arose fear in the super sects, which then combined forces to encircle them, it would probably still be extremely powerful today. Despite planting millions of spies and attacking them with a joint effort of hundreds of sects, the Blood Moon sect could still not be defeated. If not for the grudges between the Ultimate Elder and the Blood Moon Holy Lord, causing the Ultimate Elder to personally take action and attack the Blood Moon Holy Lord, the Blood Moon sect back then might not have been annihilated. Chapter 537 Arriving with Troops 3. Previously, something abnormal happened when sect disciples were out on missions, and it was only then did they sense that there was an indication of the resurrection of annihilated members of the Blood Moon sect. At that very moment, Li Chunfeng was unclear as to what the exact state of Blood Moon sect's recovery was, but he did not wish to casually offend the Blood Moon sect force before him. You know how to talk pretty well. Sitting on a blood-colored horse, the Blood Moon division head who wore a blood-colored armor sneered. Horror shone in Li Chunfeng's eyes as he stared at the Blood Moon division head. He had seen the portraits of the 108 branch masters and 36 division heads from Elder Chu before, and the elderly on the blood-colored horse was one of the 36 division heads. Could it be that Your Excellency is one of the Blood Moon sect's 36 division heads, Jiangchen division head? Li Chunfeng asked cautiously. Since you know me, hurry up and pay your respects then. A branch master looked down at Li Chunfeng. Ah! Li Chunfeng's lips curled up as his eyes landed on the blood-colored carriage seemingly. There's no hurry for that. I am just curious if the person in the carriage could be a Blood Moon elder. Elder? The Blood Moon sect members exchanged a look and erupted into laughter. That's right. There indeed is an elder. At that moment, the Blood Moon elder was accompanying beside the Blood Moon guardian, and Li Chunfeng did not say anything wrong. Witnessing the reactions of the Blood Moon sect members, uneasiness suddenly crept in Li Chunfeng's heart for some reason. Is there anything the Blood Moon sect wishes to see us about? Yi Yu suddenly spoke. A trace of caution could be seen on her delicate features. The internal affairs elder of your sect does not even have the qualification to speak to us. Who do you think you are? A Blood Moon sect member shouted coldly. When the Blood Moon sect was at its peak, when had they even cared about a super sect like Yunshao sect before? That sentence was relatively impolite, and coldness set in Yi Yu's eyes after hearing it. Ever since she entered Yunshao sect, she was the sect master's official disciple and was currently Yunshao sect's holy lady. She had some status even in Yunshao sect, and she had never thought she would actually be berated by a Blood Moon sect member in public. Why do I see traces of viciousness in this young girl of Yunshao sect? Could it be that you wish to attack us? That Blood Moon sect member had a teasing expression. Haha. Hundreds of Blood Moon sect members roared with laughter immediately. Yi Yu frowned slightly and looked towards Li Chunfeng, who, however, gave Yi Yu a look which signified to not act rashly. Let me ask you all, why do you want to annihilate this small sect? Shuo Tianzong, who had a sword hung on his waist, simply could not be bothered with Yi Yu as he spoke indifferently. Ha! Li Chunfeng chuckled and looked at Shuo Tianzong. So it is Blood Moon Fiend's sword, and I Tianzong branch master? Truth be told, there is some enmity between this sect and ours, and we started a war today. Shuo Tianzong had an indifferent expression. I'm protecting this small sect. After hearing these words, the high-ranking Xianling executives as well as Xianling sect disciples were in disbelief. Not mentioning the people from Yunshao sect, even the Xianling sect masses were utterly stupefied by Shuo Tianzang's words. The reason for Blood Moon sect's sudden appearance was still unknown. Who would have thought that the Blood Moon sect would actually say that they wanted to protect Xianling sect? You're protecting it? A warden from Yunshao sect looked at Shuo Tianzang and sneered. On what basis? Chapter 538 Displaying One's Remarkable Prowess. 1. Clank. As a crisp unsheathing sound rang in the air, that disrespectful Yunshao sect warden was split into two by the blood-colored sword light in the next second. Clank. At the same time, the sword was kept back into its sheath. On the basis of my sword. Shuo Tianzang was emotionless. Hiss. As the Yunshao sect elites saw crimson blood spurting out of the warden who was sliced by the sword aura, they gasped in horror. No one saw Shuo Tianzang's attack. That man in a white top seemed to have stood in midair without moving throughout the entire time. The sword was unsheathed and sheathed in just a breath's time, and it was so quick that one could not distinguish his movements with their naked eye. In just a moment, the Yunshao sect warden was killed there and then. Shuo Tianzang, a Yunshao sect elder, was rather nervous. Rumor had it that amongst the 108 branch masters, Shuo Tianzang was nicknamed the Blood Moon Fiend Sword. His swordplay techniques were superb and had been extraordinary since 1,000 years ago. He was known as Blood Moon sect's top swordplay master. Although he was a branch master, his skills were, however, unfathomable. That nine-tailed spirit phoenix is pretty good. Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded from the blood-colored carriage that the 8 demonic beasts were pulling. Blood Demon immediately cupped his fists and bowed respectfully. I understand. Afterward, Blood Demon snickered devilishly and flew towards Yi. Yi was slightly taken aback to see a red shadow flying towards her. A cold glint flickered in her eyes as she said coldly, "You have a death wish." Yi, who was standing on the nine-tailed spirit phoenix, smashed a hand towards Blood Demon. A playful expression appeared on Blood Demon's face immediately. There was something special about this Yunshao sect girl. She was so young but had already entered the third heaven of martial chi level 3. Blood Demon rapidly disjointed his body and turned into blood water. Blood Demon mystical technique. Yu kept her hand back. A blue light filled with a horrifying force of destruction floated into appearance around her. TSK. Blood Demon laughed evilly. Even if she had a blue spirit root, he had no fear. Before Yi attacked, the nine-tailed spirit phoenix beneath her was already covered in Blood Demon's blood-colored force. The nine-tailed spirit phoenix cried in fury and moved around, wanting to escape the bind. However, the blood-colored force was like a sturdy cage that could not be escaped from. Blood Demon pulled the nine-tailed spirit phoenix and flew forward. Yi frowned. She could not do anything to Blood Demon right now. If she was led into the group of people by him, the consequences would be dire, so she could only give up on her nine-tailed spirit phoenix temporarily. At the thought of how she had never suffered such a humiliation ever since she entered Yunshao sect, she glared at the blood-colored carriage coldly. Pulling the nine-tailed spirit phoenix, Blood Demon walked to the blood carriage in great strides before kneeling on a knee. I've brought the nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Good. The ethereal voice sounded from the carriage once again. As that voice sounded, an ash-pale girl with a crystal-clear body and delicate features slowly walked out from the blood carriage with an aloof expression. She reached out for the nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Her seemingly weak hand was gently placed on the back of the nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Hoot! The nine-tailed spirit phoenix shouted angrily, as though it did not allow anyone apart from Yi to touch it. However, as the girl's hand touched the nine-tailed spirit phoenix, it turned blood red before everyone's eyes and no longer struggled in just a few breaths' time. Blood Demon. The girl spoke softly. Then, Blood Demon let out an evil laugh and kept the blood-colored force that twined around the nine-tailed spirit phoenix's body. Chapter 539 Displaying One's Remarkable Prowess. 2. The nine-tailed spirit phoenix which turned red flapped its wings instantly and hovered in the sky, becoming a member of the Blood Moon sect. My nine-tailed spirit phoenix. Yi was shocked to witness her own nine-tailed spirit phoenix listening to that girl. Her master, the Yunshao sect master, personally sought this nine-tailed spirit phoenix for her, and it was extraordinarily precious. Yet, it was actually snatched by the Blood Moon sect members today. That girl is one of the 108 branch masters, fiendish demon. Li Chenfeng had a serious expression when he recognized the other party's identity immediately after seeing that she controlled the nine-tailed spirit phoenix. It was said that fiendish demon was transformed from a demonic beast, and it could control spirit animals and demonic beasts and even assimilate them. Currently, the nine-tailed spirit phoenix was already assimilated by the fiendish demon and no longer belonged to Yiyu. Come back, Yiyu said gently as she looked at the nine-tailed spirit phoenix that hovered above the Blood Moon sect members. Hover. The blood-colored nine-tailed spirit phoenix glanced at Yiyu without any warmth like before. Its eyes were cold and indifferent and even had a trace of disdain. Blood Moon sect, what exactly do you all want? A Yunshao sect elder shouted at that instant. There are two goals for coming here today, Shuo Tianzong said. Firstly, to kill our sect betrayer, Chu Zhongyang, and secondly, to annihilate Yunshao sect. Soul-severing troll added on. What? That Yunshao sect elder clenched his teeth. Don't push your luck, Blood Moon sect. There were hundreds of sects who annihilated your sect back then. Why must you all come at Yunshao sect the moment you all appear and not other sects? What you said is right. Shuo Tianzong looked at that Yunshao sect elder apathetically. At that instant, the Xianling sect masses were shaken as they looked at the Blood Moon sect forces in midair. This was the colossus that took over the world 1,000 years ago. As powerful as Yunshao sect was, it, however, no longer had any attitude before the Blood Moon sect. In the blood carriage, the Blood Moon elder looked out and shook his head. Xianling sect really sustained heavy damages. If we came any later, I'm afraid it would already have been annihilated by Yunshao sect. A cold glint flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes at that moment. She had already rushed over at the fastest speed. Yi Qingtang stood up and looked downward. It was haphazard in Xianling sect. The disciples' corpses seemed to pile into a small mountain while the boundless blood reflected in her eyes like a flame that burned ragingly. Then, Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes as she looked at Yiyu not far away. That Yiyu who personally snatched her spirit root away. Yi Qingtang's eyes flickered, but she did not give any orders to the Blood Moon sect members. She took a deep breath quietly and suppressed all her emotions, allowing her eyes to slowly return to a calm expression. She came today not to settle scores with Yiyu but to rescue Xianling sect, and thus, she should prioritize the overall situation. With a Blood Moon sect division in action, the other super sects in Formidable Heavens dynasty would hear of it and rush over shortly after. She must save her sect from the misery in the shortest time possible. As for Yi, they still had a long time ahead of them in the future, and she would slowly settle the score with Yiyu. At that instant, Li Chenfeng glimpsed across the blood carriage that the 8 demonic beasts were pulling and asked, I wonder who is in the carriage? You're not qualified to know. The Blood Moon Division head sneered coldly. However, as the Blood Moon Division head finished his sentence, the carriage door was suddenly opened. Chapter 540 Displaying One's Remarkable Prowess. 3. A flaming red figure stepped out of the blood-colored carriage slowly. In just an instant, it attracted the attention of everyone present. With a red veil covering her face, Yi Qingtang gradually walked into everyone's line of sight. The eyes that were exposed out of the veil were like a treasury of stars, revealing specks of coldness as they glanced across the masses. The Blood Moon sect members immediately separated into two sides when they saw Yi Qingtang walking out of the blood carriage. Everyone including Shuo Tianzong and Jiang Chen, a Blood Moon Division head, successively bowed to the girl in a red veil with a reverent and respectful expression. Li Chenfeng was surprised. Previously, he only guessed that the person in the carriage was at the level of a Blood Moon sect elder, but now, The girl's appearance could actually make the Blood Moon Division head bow in respect. The division head and elder had an equal position in Blood Moon sect. If that girl was a Blood Moon sect elder, the Blood Moon Division head absolutely did not need to give her a full bow. Below, the remaining Xianling sect disciples were extremely curious as they looked at the girl. Although Blood Moon sect had a well-known reputation, very few saw their true faces, and the curiosity of the sect disciples was inevitable. From the reaction of the Blood Moon sect masses, they could tell that the girl's identity and position were definitely not that of an average disciple. Could that person be? After the appearance of Blood Moon sect, Elder Qin, who had not spoken all this while, had a change in expression, and he looked at Elder Mo in front of him. Blood Moon sect's appearance pinned down Yunshao sect, allowing the Xianling sect masses to heal their injuries. The condition of those heavily injured disciples was mostly stabilized, and the Xianling sect master and grand elder had recovered quite a fair bit as well. Elder Mo was rather perplexed as he looked at the girl in a red face veil. For some reason, he felt that the pair of eyes and brows outside the veil were seemingly familiar. Could it be one of the 3 great Blood Moon sect guardians? The Xianling sect master asked, flabbergasted. It is said that the 3 guardians of Blood Moon sect were extremely mysterious and never appeared before anyone. Elder Mo was unconvinced that a Blood Moon guardian would appear. After all, those 3 guardians never appeared even when Blood Moon sect was annihilated back then. How then would they appear here today? Was it truly to protect their Xianling sect? Just the thought of it was preposterous. However, as Elder Mo was guessing that, we pay respects to the guardian. In midair, the Blood Moon sect masses greeted uniformly in a loud and imposing manner. Elder Mo and everyone else in Xianling sect were utterly dumbstruck. Everyone in Yunshao sect was even more astonished. The 3 Blood Moon guardians had never appeared before anyone since the founding of the sect, including when the sect was annihilated back then. Yet, unexpectedly, they actually saw an alive Blood Moon guardian today. You are a Blood Moon guardian? Li Chenfeng's body stiffened as he stared at the mysterious girl. A Blood Moon guardian was ranked just below the Blood Moon sect master and holy lord in Blood Moon sect. Their skills and rank were not one that a Blood Moon division head and elder could be compared to. Puzzlement emerged in Yi Yu's cold eyes as she stared at the Blood Moon guardian who was donned in a red robe that swayed elegantly in the wind. Although the Blood Moon guardian's face was covered by a red face veil, the person's eyes were faintly familiar to her, and she seemed to have seen them somewhere before. Chapter 541 War 1. At that moment, Soul-Severing Troll walked forward and gently lifted and placed Yi Qingtang on his shoulder. Yi Qingtang stood on the shoulder of the giant-like troll proudly and gave her order immediately. This place must be blood-stained. A cold and cheerless voice traveled into everyone's ears. In the next second, Cole! 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 Hundreds of Blood Moon sect members shouted continuously. Cole! Yi Qingtang waved a hand immediately. Swoosh! In almost a second, hundreds of Blood Moon sect members turned into blood-colored shadows and flew towards Xianling sect. While the Yunshao sect disciples were powerful, they paled in comparison to the Blood Moon sect members. Moreover, more than half of the Yunshao sect disciples sent were already killed by Xianling sect's heritage, and only around 30 people remained, making it impossible to put up a struggle against hundreds of Blood Moon sect members. At that instant, the Yunshao sect disciples in Xianling sect were no longer as arrogant and proud as before. With the Blood Moon sect members coming after their lives crazily, the Yunshao sect disciples fled in disarray. The Xianling sect disciples were dumbfounded at the sight and did not know what to say. They were initially a little worried that the Blood Moon sect people would conveniently kill them along with the Yunshao sect forces. After all, while that Shuo Tianzong said he wanted to protect Xianling sect, according to Blood Moon sect's past temperamental style, it was impossible to make any judgments. However, this worry vanished into thin air very quickly. The Blood Moon sect members did not attack Xianling sect. Their objective was very clear, and they only targeted Yunshao sect such that they did not even spare Xianling sect an eye. The Xianling sect masses were even more baffled then. They initially thought that a disaster would befall on them, yet unexpectedly, the Blood Moon sect appeared in the middle of nowhere. Li Chenfeng's brows were tightly furrowed. The Blood Moon Guardian actually gave an order to annihilate them. "Little bitch, receive your death." Blood Demon cackled before turning into blood water and headed towards Yiyu directly. Noticing the situation, Yiyu's eyes were cold, and a horrifying breath of destruction emerged around her. Blood Demon possessed demonic blood powers, and he could disjoin himself and turn into blood water. However, Yiyu never paid any attention to him. With her blue spirit root and paragon skill, she could kill the Blood Demon if she was given time. Blood Moon Guardian, is it impossible to end things nicely today? Li Chenfeng looked at Yi Qingtang. However, Yi Qingtang remained silent and looked back at Li Chenfeng with cold eyes, clearly having no intention to reply to him. "Since your Blood Moon sect is so conceited, all of you will die here today." Li Chenfeng narrowed his eyes. He originally did not wish to fight against Blood Moon sect, yet, unexpectedly, the Blood Moon sect wanted to annihilate them. If that was the case, a war it shall be then. Right after, Li Chenfeng gently patted the sect protector Divine Beast. Roar! In the next second, the Divine Beast roared in fury and charged towards Yi Qingtang. Roar! At the same time, the 8 demonic beasts roared angrily and charged out from both Yi Qingtang's sides. Several huge shadows flashed across and entered a brawl with that Divine Beast. Swoosh! A sword light shone and slashed towards Li Chenfeng. Li Chenfeng did not dare to be careless and used a remarkable technique to take refuge in the void, only reappearing after dodging that frightening blow. Shuo Tianzang. Li Chenfeng mumbled coldly as he looked at the youth who stood in midair with a sword wielded in his hand. Shuo Tianzang was highly ranked amongst the 108 branch masters. His sword Dao attainments were extremely high, and he was not easy to deal with. Chapter 542 War 2. Without saying anything, Shuo Tianzang turned into a ray of white light and slashed his sword toward Li Chenfeng, the youngest internal affairs elder in Yunshao sect history. The Divine Beast was held back by the 8 demonic beasts and was assisted by the Pale Girl, who was nicknamed as the Fiendish Demon. Thus, it could not leave to help Li Chenfeng at the moment. Almost half of the Yunshao sect disciples and wardens in Xianling sect were killed by Blood Moon sect. If not for the exhaustion caused by Xianling sect's heritage, perhaps the Yunshao sect masses still could hold on for some time. However, under the powerful force of the Blood Moon sect division, the Yunshao sect masses retreated in defeat little by little and could not contend against their opponent. Boom! Blood Demon was flung out by the force of Yiyu's blue spirit root. Subsequently, Yiyu flew towards Yi Qingtang. Yiyu did not become Yunshao sect's holy lady just because of her martial talents. Earlier on, Yiyu faintly sensed that the Blood Moon Guardian's martial aura was not extremely strong. Thus, Yiyu thought that perhaps this Blood Moon Guardian had just resurrected not long ago. Capture the ringleader first in order to capture all his followers. If she could capture the Blood Moon Guardian, none of the Blood Moon sect members would dare to make any moves rashly. Humph! Soul-severing Troll scoffed coldly as he looked at Yiyu, who charged towards them and threw a heavy punch at her. However, Yiyu was extremely nimble. She stepped on Soul-severing Troll's shoulders and struck towards Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang's brows were furrowed when she saw Yiyu coming for her, and she immediately shifted her body to a side. There was a lot of force in Yiyu's strike, and even the wind from the strike was extremely strong. Although Yi Qingtang dodged the attack, the wind from the strike directly caused Yi Qingtang's blood-colored veil to fall. Looking at the face veil that drifted down, Yi Qingtang knew that there was trouble. However, it's your... The face that was revealed after the face veil dropped caused Yiyu to be taken aback for a moment. Didn't the face before her right now belong to Yi Qingtang? How could it be Yi Qingtang? At that time, Soul-severing Troll roared in fury and forced Yiyu to retreat with his powerful force. Yi Qingtang. Yiyu withdrew herself and leaped away. Her detached eyes were fixed right on Yi Qingtang. Why did she not know that Yi Qingtang had become that so-called Blood Moon Guardian? In Xianling sect, Elder Mo, Elder Qin, and the rest were in disbelief after seeing the face of the Blood Moon Guardian. No one would have thought that the Blood Moon Guardian was actually Yi Qingtang. Isn't that Junior Sister Yi? Zhu Chang'e, with his mouth agape, stared at Yi Qingtang, who was donned in full red that resembled Fr. Junior Sister Yi. Junior Sister Yi is Blood Moon Sect's guardian? Qin Huan widened his eyes, suspecting if he was hallucinating. Impossible. How can Junior Sister Yi be Blood Moon Sect's guardian? Yun Shu shook his head. There was definitely something off in this. Qingtang, why did you become the Blood Moon Sect's guardian? The Grand Elder shouted towards the sky. After hearing his words, the Yunshao sect masses immediately looked towards Yi Qingtang. This person isn't a Blood Moon guardian at all. She is a Xianling sect disciple, Yi Qingtang. Suddenly, a Yunshao sect disciple who was once injured by Yi Qingtang shouted loudly. What? The Blood Moon sect division head, Jiang Qin, and all branch masters stopped their action immediately. Ah! Yi Yu's lips curled into a sneer. Blood Moon sect has a legendary reputation, but after seeing it today, it doesn't seem much. What do you mean? A Blood Moon branch master looked at Yi Yu with a frown. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.